Catherine, if we could please call the meeting to order with a roll call.
President Demos.
Here.
Trustee Clark.
Here.
Trustee Lattisack.
Here.
Trustee McGinley. Here. Trustee O'Shea.
Here.
Trustee Senate.
Here.
Wonderful. If Ann Elliott could please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The next item is village recognition. Village Clerk Galvin.
The village would like to acknowledge the outstanding customer service received from Michael Foster, ComEd External Affairs Representative, in going above and beyond in his professionalism and determination while helping our community.
Wonderful. The next item is audience participation. The first item is a presentation by DuPage County Board Member Tim Elliott regarding county initiatives. Welcome back.
Good evening, President Demos and trustees. It's a pleasure to be back here tonight. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to address you as a board. It is a little bit unusual for me to be doing it from this position over here. This is the first of what I hope will be a regular practice of serving as a liaison between DuPage County and its resident municipalities. We are in a political season where the papers and the news media is full of stories about lack of cooperation between governmental entities. And every day we see new arguments, new fights. I think it's important to recognize that is not necessarily true at the local level, and that we have a good relationship in DuPage County, not only between the county and the municipalities, but also between the myriad of other forms of government. Intergovernmental cooperation between DuPage County and its municipalities is extremely important. Consider this. DuPage County has just over 900,000 residents. Of those, 800,000 live in cities and villages just like Glen, Ellyn. And what that means is that 8 out of every 9 people in DuPage County receive their daily services, police protection, fire, streets, sanitation, water, from municipalities just like Glen, Ellyn. You are truly on the front line of providing the services to our residents. We at the county cannot do our job without close cooperation with you. And the county provides a strong regional partner for municipalities like Glen, Ellyn to provide regional solutions to problems that may demand broader solutions that can be provided by an individual municipality. I'm pleased to report that we have had a great deal of success in recent months in the arena of intergovernmental cooperation. Many of you may have read about the DuPage County Board recently approving the DuCom facility on the DuPage County complex. It is a $17 million project, placing a new state-of-the-art call center in an existing building. Instead of new construction, the facility is being built in an abandoned building that used to be the juvenile facility for DuPage County, saving the taxpayers millions of dollars by repurposing an existing structure and moving it on to an existing governmental campus. That is a joint project of DuPage County, of DuCom, and of the ETSB, of which Mark Franz, I know, serves on the board. I'm pleased to report that last week, the Transportation Committee at DuPage County voted to approve an intergovernmental agreement with the village of Glen, Ellyn, allowing for a regional stormwater solution and for drainage under Geneva Road. Those of you on the village board know that this is a problem that has dramatically affected a neighborhood in Glen, Ellyn. And I was on the board with you for many months when we talked about solutions to the stormwater issues that people were suffering on Elm and Oak and Kenilworth. Glen, Ellyn worked hard. Glen, Ellyn redesigned Elm Street. We undertook projects to solve it on a local level, and now DuPage County is assisting that on a regional level. That will come before the full board tomorrow. I have every confidence that it'll be approved, and I'll be proud to vote for that. That's a solution that gives real benefits to Glen Ellyn residents. Finally, an agenda item that is coming before you tonight, which I consider to be of great importance, involves three public bodies that I hold very dearly: the Village of Glen Ellyn, the College of DuPage, and the County of DuPage. Several years ago, as many of you may know, in a very public spat, the College of DuPage effectively seceded from the Village of Glen Ellyn and came under the regulatory jurisdiction of the County of DuPage. In a few moments tonight, the Glen Ellyn Village Board will be asked to vote on an amendment to that intergovernmental agreement that effectively reverses that and brings the College of DuPage back to the Village of Glen Ellyn. COD is scheduled to vote, their board to vote on this measure on Thursday night, and it will come before DuPage County, before us on April 11th, and I have every confidence that it will pass all three boards. This is the result of years of hard work by a number of people, but I really want to single out Village President Alex Demos, who has worked tirelessly to repair the relationship with the College of DuPage and to make this happen. I salute him. I salute Dr. Ann Rondeau, the president of the College of DuPage, who's with us tonight. I salute Deanne Mazzocchi, the chairman of COD, and Chairman Dan Cronin of the DuPage County Board. This is a great example of governments working together to provide good solutions for taxpayers, and in this case, to repair a spat that should frankly never have happened. Why do I mention these examples of government cooperation? I mention them because it is critical, now more than ever, that the governmental entities in DuPage County and in Illinois work together. We are all aware of the situation in the state of Illinois. Our population is decreasing. The debt at every level of our government is staggering. Investment is drying up, and it is becoming increasingly difficult to persuade businesses to invest in our communities and to bring jobs to our communities. A generation of reckless mismanagement in this state, from the top on down, is now coming home. And over the next few years, places like Glen Ellyn and the County of DuPage are going to have to bear the brunt and be on the receiving end of the impact of that. DuPage County is projecting significant reductions in its sales tax revenue over the next few years. If that weren't bad enough, there is a strong push from some in Springfield and some locally to make communities like Glen Ellyn pay more in taxes, income tax, sales tax, and property tax, to subsidize parts of the state like the city of Chicago. That will only add to the financial stress that Glen Ellyn and DuPage County and our common constituents face. Thus far, we have weathered the storm successfully. I'm very proud to have served on two bodies that have frozen their property tax levies. Under the leadership of this board, Glen Ellyn has frozen its tax levy for 3 years. In DuPage County, the property tax levy has been frozen since, I believe, 2009. Not to be outdone, I think Dr. Rondeau would tell you that College of DuPage last year actually cut its levy by 5%. That is good government. And I don't think many of our citizens are aware of the strides that this board and the County of DuPage and COD have taken to freeze the property taxes. But that will become increasingly difficult in the months and years ahead. The economic and political challenges that this board and DuPage County and other municipalities will face will be staggering. We will need to work together very closely to reinvent the way that we deliver services to our common constituents. At both the county level and at the municipal level, saying, well, it's always been that way, or this is always the way that we've delivered these services, is not going to be good enough. We will have to work together very closely, and I look forward to doing that with this board, and I'm proud to do that alongside this board. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the open part of the meeting. This is where we'll ask people that would like to speak for up to 3 minutes about something that is not on tonight's agenda. Catherine, do we have anyone signed up first for the open point?
Yes, we do. We have Mark Senick.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce from St. Mark's Episcopal Church, Pastor George Smith.
Thank you. Only 3 minutes, and you've asked a preacher. That's a little challenging, but anyway, it is an honor to be here at the request of Trustee Senick and to offer a prayer. And I think with the challenges we just heard about, what a wonderful thing that we have a tool such as prayer to guide us. So I invite those of you who wish to listen carefully. So from Psalm 5, I quote this: "Give ear to my words, O Lord, consider my meditation." And then from Psalm 24, "The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it, the world and all who dwell therein." I invite you to pray with me now. Lord God of all people and nations, creator of heaven and earth, we give you thanks for the blessings of this community and our common dream. Homes and schools where children thrive, neighborhoods that are safe and clean, a community rich in color and cultures, an economy that is vibrant and healthy. Tonight, bestow upon the village president and board of trustees the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that they may serve with steadfast integrity to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the village of Glen. You have given us the vision of a holy city to which the nations of the earth turn. With that vision in our hearts, help us to renew a spirit of mutual respect that forms our civic life. Raise up and sustain able leaders throughout our community. Help us strive to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and injustices, so that peace may prevail and that all people from different cultures and varieties of talents may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity. And finally, with divisions being healed, that we may live in justice and peace. Turn our hearts toward charity, our thoughts toward justice, and our hands toward the work of peace. Amen.
Thank you. You have 1 minute to spare.
Oh, no, going back. Thank you. Catherine, do we have anyone else signed up?
No, we do not.
Would anyone else like to speak? Is there anyone in the overflow room that might like to speak? Thank you. The next item is consent agenda as published. It's also on the overhead, and you'll find it about the room. Would any trustee like to remove any item from tonight's consent agenda for individual consideration? Would any trustee like to ask any questions about any item on tonight's consent agenda? Are there any public comments on tonight's consent agenda? May I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
President Demos, I move to approve items 1 through 5 on the consent agenda, including payroll and vouchers totaling $1,864,751.10.
So do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further deliberations? May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Senick.
Aye.
Trustee O'Shea.
Aye.
Trustee Clark.
Yes.
Trustee Ladisek.
Yes.
Trustee McGinley. Aye.
Wonderful. The consent agenda passes as published. The next item is item G, the First Amendment to the Intergovernmental Agreement between College of DuPage, the County of DuPage, and the Village of Glen. And Manager Franz will introduce this item.
Thank you, Village President, Village Board. We're pleased to announce that the Village and COD both would like to normalize the relationship and return to a time when the two government entities worked very cooperatively. Over the last year, the Village and COD have reestablished a strong, positive relationship in many ways. Our respective management teams are working well together to evaluate and pursue different partnerships on many levels. The new, I still say new, College President, Dr. Ann Rondeau, has been instrumental in strengthening this relationship with the Village. Staff intends to continue to collaborate and partner with the College to ensure that we mutually support each other's missions wherever possible. Just a little bit of background. In March 2012, the Village Board approved an intergovernmental agreement between the village, county, and the College of DuPage that transferred certain regulatory control over the College of DuPage campus from the village of Glen Ellyn to the county. The reason for this was to resolve some ongoing disputes between the college and the village over certain regulations such as building codes, zoning, and sign codes. The parties now wish, in a spirit of mutual cooperation and with the desire to return relations between the village and college to a more normal state, to amend that agreement and provide for an orderly transition of regulatory oversight back to the village. All parties' respective staff have discussed and agreed to this amendment, and the elected boards are scheduled to consider this matter tonight for the village board, Thursday for the College of DuPage, and April 11th for the County of DuPage. Both the village and the college want to extend our sincere appreciation to the county for their support and willingness to intervene to end this dispute back in 2012. Without their assistance and leadership, this would not have been possible. To that end, the county will be temporarily continuing with its administration and enforcement of certain regulatory ordinances with respect to the college's campus until July 1st is when we would shift back to the village if this is approved on all levels. So staff supports and encourages the village board to improve this amendment. It's a good government decision to strengthen our relationship with one of Glen Ellyn's most essential assets in the community, and the College of DuPage has been very supportive to that end. Therefore, we're recommending to the village board to approve the First Amendment of the IGA tonight.
I want to briefly say that, after a separation, we just greatly appreciate this coming together, and we appreciate the college. And when you think about the Glen Ellyn community as a whole, we are a college community. The amount of people that come into our town each and every day to College of DuPage is I believe, one of the largest two-year universities in the state of Illinois. I look at College of DuPage as a two-year university. My son, I graduated from College of DuPage prior to moving on, and my son graduated from College of DuPage in a program that allowed him guaranteed admissions to the University of Illinois in a very coveted civil engineering program. So College of DuPage is an asset in a form of economic development that we need to work seamlessly together to take advantage of. We need to work collectively, both as the county and the village and the college, to find ways to both enhance the environment at College of DuPage, but to enhance the village's ability to economic gain from the fact that we have this treasure within our borders. So I'm very excited. I have to say that Dr. Rondeau, Chairman Mazzocchi, and the entire COD board, along with Chairman Cronin and county board member, and District 4 Representative Tim Elliott, worked endlessly to achieve this result, and unselfishly. We came to an agreement, we addressed each other's needs, we took each other at our words. In the end, shaking hands and agreeing, and now bringing it for the formality of this approval. So personally, Dr. Rondeau, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your honesty, your integrity, and your tireless efforts and your trust. And I can guarantee you that both the village board, and the staff will work each and every day to continue to earn that trust. And together, I'm excited about all that we can accomplish. So I want to personally thank you, and I'd like to invite you to step up if you'd like to say anything.
We are very pleased at College of DuPage to be able to extend to you, President and trustees, our goodwill and our trust. I will tell you is that Manager Franz has been essential to the conversation, as have you, sir, and we thank you for your leadership in building that trust. I look forward to deeper and broader friendships and being good neighbors, and to all of the citizens here. But again, I thank you for your leadership, because with that leadership, we were able to build upon that integrity and that trust and those handshakes. So I thank you very much, sir, for all of your leadership.
Thank you. Are there? I'm going to have public comment first, and then we can deliberate on this item. Is there any public comment on this item? Are there any trustee questions or comments at this point? May I-
I'm sorry, and I'm making the motion, so I wanted to quickly say, I was on the board when we amended the agreement 5 years ago, and I cannot be more thrilled that I'm here today and able to cast a vote to reverse it. I'm even more thrilled that my name was listed to cast the motion, so I don't know if staff did that on purpose or not, but take the credit, and I really am excited for this. So I'm just thrilled that I can see it full circle.
I'm not excited that Diane's name was on there as a newbie back on the board, but for all the reasons stated by Dr. Rondeau and Mayor Demos, I was on the board as well, and I couldn't be happier that we are reestablishing all of those relationships in that trust.
I would just like to echo everyone's comments and our appreciation. Look forward to working with the College of DuPage on a going forward basis. This is a great first step, but I realize there is much work that needs to be done, and I pledge my support in that effort. Thank you.
With no further questions, may I have that motion, Diane?
Absolutely. I'm honored to request a motion to approve the First Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between the College of DuPage, the County of DuPage, and the Village of Glen Ellyn.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any further deliberations? May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee McGinley.
Aye.
Trustee Lattisak.
Aye.
Trustee Clark.
Yes.
Trustee O'Shea.
Aye.
Trustee Senek.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Congratulations, and congratulations to the community. Thank you. The next item, a proposed development of 825 North Main Street, presented by the Planning Development Director, Holzberg. I would like to say it appears in, if I could see a show of hands of how many people are here and have filled out the form to speak on this item that are in the room. If anybody would like to sign up that's in the overflow room, please, do we have sheets there,
They're on
Catherine?
the table there, I've already explained it to them.
And maybe somebody can collect that. What we're going to do is we're going to have Director Holzberg offer a presentation on the item, and we're going to open it to public discussion. We do have quite a few people that do want to speak. The public discussion will be limited to 3 minutes, so I ask you to please make your point and conclude within the 3 minutes. We'd like to have everyone listen to everybody, so if we can all pay attention and give our full attention to people as they speak. We'll take the time to allow everyone that would like to speak on this item to speak. At that point, we will close public discussion, and the trustees will go through questions and deliberations, and by the end of the evening, take a vote on this matter. So, Director Holzberg, if you could start.
Thank you, President Demos. I did want to mention for the public that the village board did receive the minutes of all of the Plan Commission and the Architectural Review Commission meetings. Any letters that we received either in favor or opposed, we have passed those on to the board, so they do have them in their packet and they have reviewed them. So I will start with our presentation. The True North LLC is the contract purchaser for 825 North Main Street, and they're requesting approval of a special use permit, variations from the zoning code, variations from the sign code, and exterior appearance review. And the requests are being made to accommodate the construction of a 6-pump, 12-vehicle position gas station and a 4,200 square foot convenience store. The property itself is located at the southeast corner of Main Street and St. Charles Road in the C2 Community Commercial Zoning District. The slide on the overhead screen shows the property itself outlined in red. It's a little bit thin, but you can see the red line here. The site's currently vacant. There were at least 3 former gas stations, to my knowledge, on this site in the past. It's located at the intersection of 2 major arterial roads. There's approximately 37,000 vehicles a day that go through this intersection. 25,000 approximately on St. Charles Road and 12,000 on Main Street. The remaining 3 corners are either commercial uses or non-residential. And when I say non-residential, I'm referring to the Historical Society property at the southwest corner of the site. I do want to spend a little bit of time going over what the comprehensive plan recommends for these particular property. As you can see on the screen, the property itself is these 3 lots here, and they are shown to be neighborhood commercial. So this is what the comprehensive plan recommends that the village do with this property in the future. And we've circled the neighborhood commercial classification to show that's red. The comprehensive plan has a specific section just dedicated to some of our high areas for potential redevelopment, being the downtown Roosevelt Road and here at Stacy's Corners as well. And one of the elements of the downtown plan, the comprehensive plan, shows that it identifies potential improvement and development sites. And in this case, the southeast corner of the intersection is called out as Site D, which is an improvement and development site, which is down here at this intersection. And it does say that Site D is a suitable location for convenience retail, service, or office uses. And then it goes on to say, also regarding Site D, that various properties might be redeveloped separately or several parcels might be combined to accommodate larger scale new development. This last paragraph here is actually referring to this blue site here, which is also part of the site that we're talking about this evening. But it was vacant at the time that this 2001 comprehensive plan was adopted. The other 2 sites were occupied by a canopy and a gas station building. So this is actually referring to the light blue site, that the small vacant parcel along the south side of St. Charles Road should be designated for commercial use, which would allow for expansion of the existing business or create a larger, more attractive site for redevelopment. So after the comprehensive plan designates what should be, or what the village should do, or what the vision should be for these areas, zoning is something that follows shortly thereafter. We've outlined in red the 3 sites that we're talking about. This first site immediately at the southeast corner, that has been zoned for commercial uses since back in 1942. The next site to the east, which is this one, was zoned commercial since 1972. And then this third site to the east was rezoned in 2012 with proper notification, which is required by state statute in the newspaper. And we did that in accordance with the comprehensive plan because all 3 lots were under common ownership, and the comprehensive plan recommended that they be redeveloped in unison. There is a misconception out there that we heard at some of the public hearings that this property was previously zoned forest preserve or protected in some way. I'm not sure where that idea came from. None of the property was ever in a preserved area or a protected area. We know this because when the village purchased the site, we went through an extensive due diligence period and we pulled all of the prior ownership, all of the titles, all of the documents related to the property, and there were no easements or conservation easements that said that any portion of this property was to be protected. I'd like to give you a little bit of a history on the site. The history goes back quite a ways, back to 2005, when we initially began negotiations for the property in order to acquire it and clean up the way the site had looked and prepare it for redevelopment. The owner at that time did enter into a contract with someone else, but however that contract fell through. And so in November of 2009, the village did reinitiate discussions regarding potential purchase. We were able to purchase the property in September of 2010 for $590,000. Shortly thereafter, we started working on environmental remediation of the site. We have since obtained a focused no further remediation letter from the IEPA. And then in June 2011, and before moving forward with the future planning for this site or trying to find out what to do with this site, obviously we knew what the comprehensive plan said, but we went further. We hired an architectural firm to design various different layouts, or what could be accommodated on this site based on the permitted uses and the special uses that are allowed in the zoning district. So we hired them. They put together 8 different site plans. And we did have a public meeting. We invited all of the residents within 300, or all the property owners within within 350 feet. To review those site plans, we got some good feedback. This is one of the site plans of the 8 that was presented that evening. Something that was consistent among all of the 8 site plans were that they showed a complete clearing of the entire site. What's being proposed by True North is a little bit different in that they are proposing to retain approximately nearly 8,000 square feet of primarily untouched vegetation that will remain. And they're doing that at the south part of the site in order to buffer the residential homes to the south. They've also located their detention pond along the east side of the property, again, in an effort to provide a greater buffer for the property to the east. To go on with the history of the site, in June of 2012, the village took those 8 plans and we prepared a request for proposals for the site. And we sent it out to a large number of developers. We widely publicized it on a number of websites to get as much interest as we could. We only received 2 proposals. One of them was determined not to be feasible to move forward. It was a developer who really had not done any development on the site, and what they were proposing really couldn't be done. And the second one was for a gas station. That gas station proposal fell through, and so a couple of years later, we decided that maybe it was the market. We went ahead and issued a second request for proposals, and we received no responses, no proposals in response to that request. So we hired a broker in August of 2014 to market the property for us. We did get 4 proposals. 2 of the 4 were for gas stations. In August of 2015, True North made an offer to propose a gas station. And in February of 2016, True North did go before the Plan Commission and the Architectural Review Commission to propose what they were thinking about for the site, and got very favorable responses. So we did enter into a contract with True North in March of 2016 for the construction of a gas station. And then most recently, just this year, last month and this month a little bit, we've had the public hearings before the Architectural Review Commission and the Plan Commission. So I do want to just spend a minute going over what the requested approvals are for True North to move forward. They are requesting a special use permit for a gas station, exterior appearance approval, and 5 variations from the zoning code. They've tried to eliminate and reduce the variations to the greatest extent possible. The first is to allow a variation to have 15 parking spaces instead of 16. They could probably add the extra 1, but they were looking to preserve as much green space as possible. The second is a variation to allow a fence along the east property line with a height of 6 feet in lieu of the maximum height of 4 feet. And that's really being done to better screen that property to the east. Third variation is for the driveway approach separation. On arterials, we require it to be 200 feet separated. However, DuPage County Department of Transportation really wants the driveway to be as far east as possible from the intersection for safety purposes, and so therefore a variation is required for that. A variation for the curb flare requirements of 20 feet instead of 25. That is in response to the village's request that they restrict left-in turning movements for traffic safety purposes on Main Street, so that people that are traveling southbound won't stop to try to make a left into the site and queue traffic into the intersection. And then a variation to allow an impervious surface setback of 5 feet in lieu of the required 6.9 feet along the south property line. Let's see if I can point that out. It's this area right here for the sidewalk. And that's basically as far as they can get it. It's about 1.9 feet too close to that property line. But because of the weird jog in the rear property line, there wasn't any way to get around that. 3 sign variations I want to quickly touch on. The first is a variation to allow a total of 39 wall signs. That sounds like a lot, but gas stations are very unique. There is only 1 wall sign being proposed on the building, and then 2 small shell logos being proposed on the canopy, the gas station canopy. The rest of the signage are the decals and the things that you see on the pumps at pretty much every gas station that you go to. A second variations for wall signage in order to accommodate what they need for a typical gas station. They're requesting a variation of 99 square feet in lieu of the maximum of 84 square feet. They did reduce that significantly since they've been before the Plan Commission and ARC. And a variation to allow an electronic message board sign in the C2 district to allow 2 digital fuel pricing components on the monument sign. So they have appeared before the ARC twice and the Plan Commission once so far. The first public hearing before the ARC was on February 22nd. 5 people spoke in opposition to the project with concerns about lack of landscaping and fencing towards the rear of the property and the proposed illuminated red band that you normally see on the shell canopies. But the ARC did recommend approval of the exterior appearance of the building by a vote of 8-0, subject to some additional landscaping, including some evergreens and a fence at the rear of the rear of the building. They also went back again to the ARC for a second public hearing on March 8th, and with revisions that the petitioner made to the plans, based on the concerns raised at the public hearing, notably the removal of the red band. The ARC did recommend approval of all of the sign variations. However, the ARC did continue the exterior appearance of the site to the next ARC meeting to review the landscaping and proposed fencing. So the sign variations and the exterior appearance of the village have received positive recommendations from the ARC. The Plan Commission, we had a public hearing on February 23rd, and 16 people spoke in opposition to the proposal of the hearing. And by a vote of 8-0, the Plan Commission did recommend denial of the request. Some of the concerns that were raised during the public hearing by the members of the Commission and the public included stormwater runoff, potential surface fuel spillage reaching the detention pond and then flowing onto adjacent properties, the need for additional landscaping and fencing similar to the ARC to screen the property to the south. And then some other concerns that they had were the proposed board fence might not adequately block the passage of sound from the property, that the canopy wouldn't fit in with the historic character of the neighborhood, that the gas station would be open 24/7, and that the proposed lighting would exceed the maximum foot candles at the entrances to St. Charles Road and Main Street. Plan commissioners also did have a concern that the petitioner's application didn't adequately explain how the project met the special use requirements. So in summary, to kind of summarize what happened at the commission meetings, the project does need to return back to the Plan Commission for a recommendation on the variations. They only made a recommendation on the special use. And it also needs to go back to architectural review for a recommendation on the landscaping and the proposed fencing. So the board this evening is only able to consider the special use permit and the sign variations requests. So I did mention that True North has responded to the comments received at both the ARC and the Plan Commission meetings by amending the plans, and I'd like to review just a few of those. So one of the issues I mentioned was that there was some concern that the proposed convenience store building didn't fit in with the historic character of Stacy's Corner. This is the original building that was proposed, and in response, True North has changed that significantly to redesign it and replace the ephes or that's a spray material that really isn't favorable, especially in this area, with hardy plank cedar mill. They added a cupola with an octagonal tower topped with copper and a gabled roof above the entrance, and they really significantly reduced the wall sign size on the front of the building. They, regarding the concern about the gas pump canopy, it didn't fit in with the historic character of Stacy's Corners, and you can see here where that logo, the Shell logo, projects above the top of the canopy, which was also a concern, and the red illuminated band shows up pretty well there. They have since illuminated the red band and the entire metal signature canopy for Shell. I believe they went back and requested that of Shell. And they added a mansard roof that will match the building, making it fit much more in character with the historical area. And the canopy columns were wrapped in brick and limestone. The concern related to the fencing, they did add fencing along the rear, and I'll show you that on one of the future screens, but the concern was board-on-board fencing wasn't enough of a sound barrier. They did eliminate the car wash that they were initially proposing, so that greatly reduces the sound. And then they also proposed this now solid vinyl fence, which is of a higher quality material and a more expensive fence. This is where I show that the addition of the fencing and the landscaping. The fencing is outlined in red, and it basically goes the entire length of the south property line and the east property line. And they proposed 8-foot arborvitaes in the area that's shown circled in green at those various locations. There was some concern raised at the last meeting whether arborvitaes are appropriate for the locations. We did have the developer's landscape consultant, who I believe is here this evening and can speak to this, but based on the elevations of those and the way the property slopes, those are appropriate locations for arborvitaes. I think there was a concern that they might get too much water and they wouldn't survive. We also had that double checked by the village's landscape architect, and he confirmed the same. There was a concern that there was a variation requested for the lighting levels, that they exceed, they were asking for a variation to exceed the 3-foot candles at both the Main Street and St. Charles Road frontages. In response, True North has taken those light levels down to below village requirements, so they no longer need a variation for that. There was also one regarding the spacing of the light poles. They've eliminated that as well and are now meeting code requirements. As I mentioned, and I showed on that earlier screen, the Shell logo signs were too large and were going above the edge of the canopy. They now have reduced those signs to 7.5 square feet from 15.5 square feet, and they do not exceed the height of the canopy. Related to the digital fuel pricing, the only portions of the sign that are proposed to be digital are the actual prices of the gas, which is something that's pretty standard in the industry. It's not, unfortunately, permitted in the C2 district. And there was a question about whether the village could even grant that variation. We have confirmed with legal counsel that a variation is permitted to be requested and granted. And so the ARC did recommend approval of the digital signage. There was some concern about fuel spillage reaching the detention pond. This is a diagram, it was colored up to kind of help show where various areas of the site was going to drain to. So for example, yellow was going to drain to St. Charles Road, green to St. Charles Road, orange to Main Street, red to the southeast, and blue to the southeast. So the concern I think that was raised was where the red is. That covers part of the building and a little bit of the pavement of the site. But the canopy, the area under the canopy where surface spills might occur, was always going to flow out to St. Charles Road. We have successfully gotten some written confirmation from DuPage County Department of Transportation, and they have indicated that they will allow all of the stormwater that lands on the building and canopy in the majority of the site to be conveyed to the existing stormwater system in the St. Charles Road right-of-way. So really, the only stormwater that lands on the surface that will end up in the detention basin is the area that's shown in blue, which is basically that undisturbed area where all the trees will remain. The orange area is shown and that will drain to the storm sewer out in Main Street. Everything else that's in green is going to drain to the north to St. Charles Road and go into the storm sewer. The last concern I wanted to mention was related to the special use standards. There was a concern that the standards in the application didn't really adequately explain how the standards have been met. And so the petitioner did resubmit those standards in their application. That information was available to the public. It was actually always available to the public. As mentioned in the public notice, anybody could have come into the Planning and Development Department and gotten a copy of that. But they've since revised that. We included in your packet, which also means it was posted online and available to all of the public. Let's see. Just a couple more slides. So the revisions that I just mentioned that were made by True North eliminated 4 of their variation requests, and I did want to call attention to that. The lighting levels at the property lines did exceed, and now that variation request has been eliminated and no longer necessary. The light pole spacing, as I mentioned, did need a variation, and now they do comply, and so that variation request was eliminated. Regarding the red illuminated band, also, that variation request is no longer needed. And regarding the 150 square feet of total signage permitted on a corner lot, they were asking for 188 square feet, and they've lowered that to comply with the village's requirements. They also reduced 2 variation requests to allow the impervious surface setback. Instead of asking for a 4.5 foot setback from the property line for the sidewalk, they've increased that to 5. And regarding the wall signage, they've cut that down 35% from 154 to about 99 square feet. That concludes my presentation. I did want to mention that the village has received both emails and letters in favor and opposed to this development, and the board has all of those. We did receive a letter with concerns from the Historical Society prior to the first Architecture Review Commission meeting. Manager Franz and I did meet with the Historical Society upon their request, shared the revised plans, and they have indicated that they were satisfied with the revised plans. I know that the whole True North team is here this evening. I know they want to give a brief presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions now, or we can call them up.
I think we'll call them up for a presentation, and then I want to respect the public's option to give comment, and we'll save our questions in the end during deliberations.
Absolutely.
So if you'd like to step forward to make a presentation.
Good evening. On behalf of True North and the Leiden family, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity tonight to address the village board, the staff, and the residents of Glen Ellyn. My name is Lindsay Leiden, and I am the Vice President of Development at True North. I'm also a proud 4th generation owner of the company that my great-grandfather founded nearly 100 years ago. Our company currently owns, operates, and/or supplies 300 stations throughout various Ohio markets, Detroit, and the Chicagoland area. While our business has grown since 1919, I am personally committed to ensure that the culture and values developed by generations before me continue to serve as the foundation of everything we do today and in the future. One of the most important of those values is the understanding of our corporate responsibility as business owners in the communities we are so privileged to serve. We take this responsibility seriously and believe, if given the opportunity, you will find True North to be one of your most outstanding corporate citizens. Next, we would like to thank the Architectural Review Commission, Planning and Development Director Hulsberg, Lee Marks, and the entire Historical Society, as well as others from Glen Ellyn, for their review, suggestions, and comments concerning the True North Glen Ellyn development. At each meeting and planning stage, dating back to March of 2016, we grew a deeper appreciation for the historic nature of the area and the importance of designing a project with complementary aspects to the Stacy's Corners buildings. At this point, I'm going to turn the floor over to our Chief Operating Officer, Ryan Howard, who will highlight some of those details, and we'll also spend a few minutes with you on our operational approach to our business. Thank you.
Thank you. As Lindsay did, I would also like to thank the village board and residents of Glen Ellyn for the opportunity to address you this evening. When we met with the Architectural Review Board and Planning Commission a little over a year ago, it was evident and stated that Glen Ellyn wanted something more and different than your typical gas station convenience store for this location. And we have altered our plans to deliver what we believe will be the most attractive convenience store facility constructed in Chicagoland. A few of the highlights of our effort and uses and aspects we pursued to better integrate into the community are: first, we contacted the owner of this property here, which as Director Hulsberg was showing the property, you saw it wasn't completely rectangular. There was kind of a chunk out over here. And we used every effort possible to try to purchase this property. We even went to the extent of trying to relocate the owner here who was looking for a continued income from rental. We pursued numerous opportunities to try to include that property in our development, as suggested by the village, in order to create a larger site, regular shaped development site, and increase the buffer to the residents to the south. Next, our initial proposal, as Director Hallsberg mentioned, included a car wash. And when we met with the Architectural Review Board and the Planning Commission, we realized that no one was in favor of that, particularly with regards to the residential properties around. And so we dropped that use from our request. We sacrificed, I'll go to the next slide here. We sacrificed our marquee sign, which is typical of all of our True North locations, in lieu of just a horizontal word mark of True North. We also used hardy plank siding in lieu of ephes here on the side to again integrate more with the other buildings in the historic district. We had gable dormers and a gable on the front and the cupola on top in order to again pick up some of the historical features that are evident in the area. Most recently, as Director Hallsberg said, we petitioned Shell, which was no small feat. They're very protective of this image of their red and yellow globally. And we petitioned them successfully because we knew that was what was desired by the residents of Glen Ellyn, that we have more of a mansard-looking canopy with bricked canopy columns and limestone accents on those. We also proposed a ground monument sign. Typically, I think in our industry, what you'll see is a very tall sign, and we knew that wouldn't fit in with the area either, so we went with a smaller sign. Then we also tried to preserve, it's not evident on this rendering, but we did try to preserve some of the landscaping around as a buffer to some of the residents. We also were careful about where we put the groundwater detention and used that as a buffer. You know, we had options. We've put the groundwater detention underground. Actually, there's systems that can do that. But instead, we tried to preserve some of that area and keep that as a buffer. I list some of these items and go through them this evening because I wanted to demonstrate to you just how we want to integrate into your community. We wouldn't have offered these concessions or spent the amount of time or money to continue to pursue this project unless we really desire to be a part of your community, and we do. We use, as a company, often stronger, more expensive materials. For instance, we don't blacktop any of our pavement. It's 100% concrete. And we take that philosophy on through. It costs us a couple more dollars up front, but we believe that the integrity of the long-term product, it holds up better. And so we go ahead and put that investment in. We also have a philosophy of keeping our locations contemporary and relevant. As we speak, locations that we built less than 10 years ago are currently under construction and being completely remodeled. In terms of operations, our brand promise is fast, friendly, and clean. And we operate our True North locations with our own staff, not with franchisees like you may see at some other either national or international convenience store chains. This allows us to maintain a higher bar as standards, policies, procedures, and control of our operations. We have a script for nearly every square foot of what should be in our stores, how it should look, right down to the backroom tack boards and what goes on it. Those things create a culture in which delivering on that brand promise delivering on our brand promise allows us to be successful. Our stores are adequately staffed and the staff are well trained, always putting our customers first. It is quite amazing to see some of the loyal relationships that develop between our staff and consumers in the communities in which they work. Now I'd like to turn the floor over finally just for a few minutes to Dave Nye, who handles our environmental matters, to explain the safety advances that have been expressed in some of the prior meetings relative to fuel storage and dispensing of fuel. David has been recognized by major oil companies, the state EPA organizations, and consultants in the field as an expert in environmental compliance. He has recently been solicited and accepted the responsibility to certify contractors, equipment installers, and peers on certain matters of environmental compliance in the state of Ohio, and he also has appropriate accreditations to handle environmental matters in the state of Illinois.
Good evening. On behalf of the entire True North management team, I'd like to express our sincere appreciation for your concerns regarding the past and future uses of the site as pertains to potential environmental impacts relating to an operating service station. To hopefully explain things regarding this topic, I'd like to first look at the prior use of the site when it was operating as a service station, which really was operating during the pre-regulation era. What I mean by pre-regulation is anything prior to 1988. 1988 was when the first regulations were promulgated by the federal CFR, and then every 5 years thereafter, the states got involved and they're constantly revising the regulations. We're currently up to the Rule 2012, and 2017 is currently being reviewed and is in draft format. With that being said, during that time frame when the old site was in service, I'd like to note that that was a site that was operating without best control technologies, and is one of the main reasons why the site's currently vacant and has known environmental impacts or implications. A lot of the older gas station sites that were not able to comply, were not able to move up the standards. It was a substantial investment by the owners and operators of regulated sites. Generally fell by the wayside, and we're dealing with sites as it sits right now. Some of these operating criteria that I'd like to go over with back in the pre-regulation area involve fuel systems that were operated that do not have spill prevention, overfill protection, corrosion protection, nor was there any automated tank gauging or continuous tank monitoring capabilities used. Leak detection compliance was not well structured, nor was it part of an operating standard that day. Most piping systems and tank systems were single walled. A lot of them were steel tanks without cathodic protection, so they're subject to corrosion. Audible alarm systems, camera systems, operator training programs were not required, nor were they part of the regulation. Operator ignorance was at its utmost. Delivery prohibition, which is a rule that's in effect today, was not structured or required in that area as well. So with that being said, I think it brings strong merit to mention what we propose would not only use best control technologies, but it would be subject to very structured, stringent regulations that are crafted by the Illinois State Fire Marshal as well as enforced by the State Fire Marshal. Such controls have removed a great deal of human intervention and have greatly reduced the number of release incidents that have occurred at regulated sites today. And I'd like to go over some of these technologies that are currently proposed for this site. Fuel systems today, both tanks and piping all have to be double walled. Everything has to meet corrosion protection, cathodic protection, and has to have spill and overfill. Automatic tank gauging is continuous monitoring through electronic system. Now has to be employed. Those are constantly in place. They're constantly monitoring our fuel systems, and they have to be inspected and maintained annually. Containment sumps. At any point where piping leaves the tank or enters or protrudes above the ground has to be within the containment. There are no more junctions or joining piping underground where they're not accessible. Those sumps have leak detection sensors in them that detect a regulated substance if there is a breach in the inner or outer wall of that double wall piping or tank system. So we have leak detection monitoring that's continuous, that's tied to our ATG console as well as sump containment. Owners and operators now have to go through a training program. They have to be trained, and that training has to be updated every 2 years to know what kind of compliance record keeping and what kind of visual inspections they have to maintain to operate that fuel system. There's 3 different levels of operator training that have to be fulfilled, and if the site is operating today without a trained operator, they're immediately red tagged and shut down. That was just put into effect April of 2016. And then to even make this further, the State Fire Marshal and their employees inspect sites once a year. So They come to our site and they do a thorough walkthrough inspection. They look at all the containments, compliance, record keeping, operator training logs, everything that is required in the state of Illinois. And if you are not in compliance, you are a red tagged, or you're issued a notice of violation, to correct that violation within 60 days, or you will be red tagged and put out of service. So we are inspected annually by the state. With regards to stormwater management, this location, as Stacy mentioned, the proposed stormwater runoff is going to the storm sewer, but there is, the receiving catch basins on the lot do have oil water debris baffling systems to catch or retain anything if it were to reach a catch basin. So that is another control that's in place. With that being said, I'd like to just emphasize that by redeveloping this site for its intended proposed use, would not only benefit the community, but I think would allow us to assess known impacts on the site from when it went through the prior remediation by the city, so that we could not only make the site a safer place, but we could clean up some of these areas that still have known impacts and remove them from the ground, so that we can benefit not only the community, but the just area in general. So that's all I had.
Thank you. We're gonna hold off on questions. I wanna listen to the public. At this point, we're gonna open it up to who has signed up. If anybody, either in the main room or the overflow room, would like to sign up to speak, please do it. Bring the form to Clerk Ellyn here at the table. Clerk Ellyn, if you could please call the first individual. And again, I'm gonna ask, because we wanna respect and listen to everybody, if you can start and conclude your presentation in 3 minutes, please. Catherine?
Okay, our first speaker is Ann Abel, and then I would like to ask David Hartzell to be on deck and ready to go.
Before my 3 minutes, can I just ask a quick question? Oh, I have to do you first, don't I? Not this one, do you say my name? No. Okay, great. Is there a franchise, like, is there a, like, most of the Shell stations have like a Dunkin' Donuts in it, or is that something that's going in this one?
No.
No, so it's just gonna be your own, okay, and then the other, there's no drive-through?
No.
Perfect. Okay, now I can start. The first thing I wanted to bring up was in that packet agenda that was given to everybody, they had said they would definitely will not give up on the 24/7 issue. Nothing else on that corner is 24/7. 7-Eleven, however, I know there are some standards there. Walgreens closes at 10 o'clock. And their response to not being 24/7 was, it is viable that it needs to be 24/7. To me, that's a huge red flag. If you have to have a 24/7 convenience store to be viable, to make money, to stay alive, to me, that, I'm scared about that. I don't wanna see another gas station go under and have, another empty gas station sitting there. I do believe that every board member and anyone else involved in this project should walk that property. If you look at it from the street, everyone I talk to, oh yeah, what's the big deal? It's gonna be on that nice little green area. No, it's not. There is a 10 to 12 foot drop there. You tell me, how is there going to be a fence? How is it gonna be built there with that 10 to 12 foot drop? And vinyl fence, no, that is heinously ugly. That doesn't fit into Glen Ellyn at all. No way for a vinyl fence. The only fence that should be allowed to be built there is a sound absorbing fence. But I still wanna know if you've all walked that property and if you've noticed that those woods are gonna be knocked out. There are no trees that can be saved. I'd love to see it. There's no trees. I sit in my backyard and I can listen. I hear woodpeckers, cardinals, robins. It's home to so many local species. it's a shame that that's gonna be wiped out. And there's gonna be some god-awful, if they have their way, vinyl fence, some sort of retention pond. I still don't understand how that's gonna work. And everybody who has on their business card, Tree City since 1984, take it off your business card, because you're destroying that entire wooded area. I also think it's funny that the Glen Ellyn Quarterly printed this blurb about construction starting this summer. And the only reason this didn't go out early February is because of a printing glitch. So they already made that decision and printed it for you. That's a little unprofessional and underhanded.
I'm going to ask you to conclude your comments.
I will. I have one last, no disrespect, Mr. Demos, but I'd like to know if you have a vested interest in this project. I know that you are the president and founder of Professional Paving and Concrete. So is there some sort of interest in this project going through that might help your company? That's a question.
Thank you.
Can I ask you your address, please?
I'm
Can I ask
sorry?
you for your address, please?
606 Elm Street.
Thank you.
Next person, please.
Okay, David Hartzell is next, and Rick Massa, you're on deck.
My name is David Hartzell. I live at 714 Meredith Place. I'm a lawyer by profession, and no lawyer has ever said anything anywhere in less than 3 minutes, but I'm going to try to do that. All right, we've lived here for 16 years, and in that time, I've seen a lot of remarkable things accomplished in this village, due in large part to the dedication of the people on this board and the previous boards, and the respective commissions and the staff people. And so I was astonished to learn that we are considering putting in a 12 pump, and it's a 12 pump. It's not a 6 pump. There are 12 cars in there that can fuel simultaneously. A 12 pump, 24-hour-a-day gas station with a liquor license on Main Street in Five Corners. And as I said this last week, as gas stations go, that's a pretty one, but it belongs on North Avenue, not a few feet from where we walk our kids to school. And my kids went to that school, and I walk them there almost every day. We don't understand how this comports with the vision for Five Corners that was articulated in the comprehensive plan. And let me quote a part of that Stacy didn't quote, which says that Five Corners is supposed to be an attractive gateway to the Glen Ellyn community and a showcase for local history. I don't know how that comports with the unanimous recommendation of your plan commission to reject this proposal, which if you override will, to my knowledge, be unprecedented. I lived through that gas station that was there before. A lot of us did. And you didn't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money, our money, to buy that property, demolish the gas station, remediate it with the state of Illinois, and then turn it over to another gas station. Every gas station that's been on that property has failed. When this one fails, and it will, and they move on and they sell it to somebody else, where are we going to be then? You really want that to be your legacy to the village. Now, I'm not anti-development, but we don't need to be chasing every last dollar of tax revenue at whatever cost to the health, safety, and aesthetic integrity of this village. And it's a little annoying, frustrating in that respect to get this little piece on the eve of the vote, which all of a sudden tells us this is going to generate $140,000 annually in sales tax revenue for the village. We were told earlier that you didn't look at the sales projections for the gas station. Where did this come from? Where's the analysis? Where has that been shared with us? And where's the analysis of what the counter effect is going to be on residential property values, as well as to the intangibles of aesthetics and safety? We know Glen Ellyn is expensive. It's expensive to live here.
I'm going to ask you to conclude your presentation, please.
But we pay that price in part because we choose not to be a community of 24-hour gas stations and liquor stores. I suggest that you have misjudged this community, so give them their deposit back, let them go build their gas station someplace else. We can do better than this.
Thank you.
Rick Massa is next, and I'd like to ask Ron Haladilek to get ready.
While we're waiting, can we ask that people who come up give your addresses, just so we can see your proximity to where
Happy
you
to.
are? Thank
Rick
you.
Massa, 787 Forest Avenue. I actually know the feet. I live approximately 400 feet, a little bit less, to this site. So I'm going to go off topic a little bit from what I plan to talk about, because I want to address some of the comments made by Ms. Hulsberg and the True North crowd that are here today. So first of all, I think a lot of people are really glossing over a really big issue here. And that's the fact that a service station is not a permitted use on this site. It doesn't fit within the zoning that you established. It requires a special use permit. Now, the standards for special uses are very high. You have to determine suitability, harmony within the neighborhood and the area before that special use permit can really be, issued. And the contract with True North is conditioned on receipt of that special use permit. So I'm obviously up here. I oppose this. I oppose the use altogether. I think this will harm our neighborhood. It will have an impact on the quality of life. It will, make this a lot less desirable, which indirectly all influence our property values. So you ask, well, how is it going to impact property values? It's right there. I can tell you, you're probably thinking, well, what's the big deal? There was a gas station there before. That gas station was on a third of the site. It was shielded by the large tree buffer that sat on the back of the site. But most importantly, it wasn't a 24/7 operation. And I think what happens, and this is a big deal, because when you take away that tree buffer and you have lighting that's for a gas station right next to a bunch of single-family homes, that's not acceptable. And this, what's being proposed tonight is very different than what was there before. So another thing is, I've been very curious on how we got this far, and Ms. Hulsberg, mentioned this as well, that, there was a lot of transparency, a lot of community input up front, that got us to this point to where we are today. I am a little disheartened to learn that, that the decision to sell to another gas station, comes off as almost borderline desperate, financially motivating, and really a complete reversal from what was communicated to the residents and the community up front. Look, I commend you for your public service, and I know you're in a tough spot, and you have a very difficult job. You have a tough decision to make here tonight, and certainly I would argue that you're a little conflicted, given that you're both the seller and the approving jurisdiction. But I do want to say, this is could be an easy decision, for a lot of people who don't live in the neighborhood, who don't have to look at this. And, I would say, if I was up there, I certainly wouldn't put this in your neighborhood. I wouldn't put it next to your elementary school. I wouldn't put it next to your single-family home. Please don't do that to us. And, I would also say that, the Plan Commission, unanimously, recommended denial of this special use permit.
Thank you. I am going to ask you to conclude, please.
Just a second. And I would just ask that you uphold their recommendation on that. In fact, if I could just add one more thing. I noticed in the packet here tonight, which Ms. Hulsberg mentioned, there's a reference here that the application was revised to talk about the special use permit. I don't think the Plan Commission has seen that. And given that it has impacts on zoning, I think it's critical that they address that. Same thing with the 24/7
Thank
opening.
you. I am going to ask you to conclude now.
Thank you.
The 3-minute policy is a policy that's been with the village for the entirety of my term, and I'm asking people to please respect the village process. We're here listening. We're taking the time to listen. A 3-minute presentation is what is allowed, and I would appreciate the people respecting that policy here. And we'll sit here and we'll take the time to listen to all your thoughts and what you say, and we'll listen to you open-mindedly. But there's a considerable amount of people that want to speak here, and out of respect to each other and our community, we're your neighbors, we're sitting here, we're listening, in an open hearing, and I am going to ask that that 3-minute limitation be respected, please.
If I
Thank you.
could too,
Thanks for the
before you
opportunity.
start, I'm sorry, Jessica Como, you're gonna be next.
My name's Ron Hadlick. I live at 725 Highland Avenue. I've been watching a lot of CNN, so I know how these town halls are supposed to go. But I probably won't be yelling at you guys. I understand that property is important and that tax revenue from property is very important. But I'm also aware that when you're making changes, there ought to be changes that enhance the quality of life here in the village. I love the village of Glen Ellyn. I came from Wheaton. I've been living here since 2004. I'm a retired school teacher, and moving here was one of the best decisions I ever made. I love the community. We're a community of neighbors. We're a community of neighborhoods. And what impacts one member of our community impacts us all. So even though I'm not near the epicenter of where you're about to drop this bomb, I'm going to feel its impact. A 24/7, I've seen gas stations like this on the interstate as I pull off to the Oasis. That's where they belong. They don't belong in our community. When I think of our community, I think about downtown Glen Ellyn, the shops that are down there, the movie theater that's down there. I like being able to walk to those places. They fit in with our vision of who we are. This is not who we are. If we've run out of ideas on how to use that property, one thing I learned from teaching school for so long is that our kids often think out of the box, and they come up with some very, very creative ideas. And if we've run out of ideas on how to properly use that property so that it fits in with the village of Glen Ellyn, part of the historic village of Glen Ellyn, maybe we ought to turn to them and ask them how they'd like to see that land used. We asked the elementary school kids, we asked the middle school kids, we asked the high school kids, and now with COD coming back to the community, ask the people at COD how we can use that property in a way that enhances the quality of life here in Glen Ellyn. A 24/7 gas station that operates and sells liquor is not who we are. It's not who the village of Glen Ellyn is. When I get up in the morning and I need to go somewhere and I need to drive in my car, I go in my car. I don't always know where I'm going, but I do know that I'll be able to find a gas station 5 minutes away. I don't have to go to the corner and put gas in my car. So I think there's lots of better ways to use that property than to build a 24/7 liquor selling gas station in a residential area, in a community like the village of Glen Ellyn. We're better than this, and I know you people can come up with better ideas. Thanks very much.
Jessica is up, followed by Cecilia Ladd-Smith.
I live at 771 Forest Avenue. My name is Jessica Como, and I helped start the online petition with my neighbor. Today we are at 771 signatures of people opposing the construction of this gas station. And I have them here tonight. There's over 200 comments on there as well of people saying similar things that you're hearing tonight. As a resident of Glen Ellyn, I support these individuals, and I urge you to listen to them and do the right thing and vote no tonight. Here are a few reasons why I do not support building a gas station. Number one, as we've stated, a service station is not permitted use under the Glen Ellyn C2 community commercial zoning. Next, it's 1 block from Forest Glen Elementary School and would increase traffic at an already busy intersection. It's really not safe for our children. Does not align with a historic gateway of our community and the village comprehensive plan. And finally, I have environmental concerns with cutting down trees, increase in air pollution, and increased exposure to benzene for residents. I like to think of everyone in Glen Ellyn as my neighbor, and I would never build a gas station in my neighbor's backyard, and I hope that you wouldn't either. I have 2 children, and we are always trying to teach them to be honest and kind. I'm asking you to be honest with yourselves tonight. You know it's not right to build this gas station. Say no tonight, and you can go home, and you can tell your family and your friends and your children that I did not build this gas station in my neighbor's yard. And I know you guys would never, in True North and your family, you wouldn't put this in your neighborhood or in your kid's backyard It is right next to our school. It is not safe. We can't have it. Thank you.
Cecilia Ladd-Smith is up, followed by Megan Clifford.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Ladd-Smith, and I live at 792 Forest. My husband of the 2-minute prayer had to leave, but I speak for him as well. We don't have a lot to say. We just want to say that we support the multiple comments that you hear from our neighbors who oppose this construction. And the main thing that we'd like to repeat was something that Jess just addressed very emotionally as well. But we want to just emphasize to you that we are glad you are our trustees. And by being an elected trustee, we know that you're aware every day, and yet remind you of our awareness too, that you have been elected trustees because we trust you and you speak for all of the community. And because every person can't represent their own home and where they live, you are doing that, and we're giving our homes to you. By being trustees, our homes are your homes. And I would just like to ask again, and George would too, would you like to have this construction done in the backyard of your home? Because that's what it is as our trustee. And then finally, completely off topic, I really would like to thank you, President Demos, for the work you've done with COD. I'm so, so excited that it's part of our community again. Thank you.
Megan is up, and if we could ask Randy Metz to be on deck.
Good evening, I'm Megan Clifford. I live at 793 Forest Avenue. And this is my third letter that I'm going to read out loud tonight, expressing my strong opposition to the request for a special use permit to accommodate a gas station and convenience store at 825 North Main Street. Elected Glen Ellyn Village Board members have a responsibility to act as public servants on behalf of the community and its constituents. Ordinance 5921 states that, quote, "It is the responsibility of all civil servants to solely serve the public interest of the village of Glen Ellyn. To achieve that requirement, it is necessary to avoid situations that present dual interests that can compromise or appear to compromise the objectivity of decisions," end quote. Serving as both village civil servants and the selling agent for this property, the village board has an inherent conflict of interest in this decision. The village board's website states that the village trustees make certain decisions to maintain and enhance the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Glen Ellyn. These decisions include, but are not limited to, responsiveness to citizens' concerns. In your 2016-2017 published Village Vision Statement, it says, "The village of Glen Ellyn is a desirable community in which to live, work, and play with unique character and charm, a small town feel, urban amenities, and a high quality of life." Finally, as indicated in the village's special use permit application, the village board must find that a special use, quote, "will not be hazardous to existing neighborhood uses and will not involve materials that will be detrimental to any persons by reason of excessive fumes. Benzene is found in gas stations and is classified as a, quote, hazardous air pollutant and carcinogenic to humans by the World Health Organization, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, U.S. Food and Drug Administration, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Your decision to enter into a contract for sale of this property to a gas station operator is contrary to your purpose to maintain and enhance the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens, and also directly conflicts with the Village Vision Statement. Additionally, it is very disheartening to discover that the board has not requested that its Environmental Commission review this project. I ask you, in your elected role as stewards of our Glen Ellyn community, deny the special use permit to show responsiveness to our concerns, maintain our health and welfare, and protect us from hazardous carcinogens, thereby exercising a duty of care and fulfilling your promise to us as your constituents to keep the village of Glen Ellyn a desirable community in which to live, work, and play. Since I have more time, I would also like to just address what Truth North mentioned earlier. I appreciate them actually showing up to this meeting this time. And you know, their statement of corporate responsibility and, quote, maintain a higher bar of standards and operations is contradicted actually by facts. Since January of this year, The Office of Illinois State Fire Marshal, the Division of Petroleum and Chemical Safety, has issued 6 notice of violations against True North for their 5 gas stations in Illinois. This is just Illinois, and since January. Those 18 specific violations are related to the management of their underground gas storage tanks. Violations include missing facility operations and maintenance plans, missing quarterly inspections checklists, missing emergency procedures plan, line sensors inoperational, dispenser hoses cracked, tank monitors not appearing
I'm
to
gonna ask you
function
to conclude
properly.
your presentation.
Thank you.
Kristen Massa is now up, followed by Maureen Samsami, who is representing Peter and Virginia Gillespie.
Hi, I'm Kristen Massa. I live at 787 Forest. And I just wanted to reiterate everything that my friends and neighbors have said tonight. We really feel passionately about this. I walk my 2 kids to Forest Glen every single day. And it's already busy. It's a very busy intersection. And adding another 24-hour operation to that corner is a mistake. And that's all I have to say.
And after Maureen, we have Diane Martinez.
May I show a picture of my parents' backyard on this overhead? I have a couple. I just kind of wanted to show them. Yeah, sorry, it's, oh yeah, can you write it? Not really. That's fine. Okay, you can start first. Thank you, I appreciate it. My parents live at 600 Elm Street. I'm here to speak for them. We categorically oppose the development of this 12-pump gas station and convenience store. As I said the last time I spoke, about 3 weeks ago, we're concerned about safety. We're concerned about minimizing the impact of a large gas station adjacent to our property. You can see in the background here, that's the Walgreens. There's a little bit of a hill. Unfortunately, I should have lightened the picture so you could see that rise that my neighbor spoke of. We're concerned about maintaining our property value. I do want to say I applaud True North and its architects for coming back with an improved plan. The look of the gas station and the convenience store is improved. However, it is still just a gas station and a liquor store, okay? It's not what the neighborhood wants. The frequently asked, or the FAQs that we received tonight, I found somewhat alarming. The village board, while inviting the neighbors to first learn about this 1 year in the making plan just 3 weeks ago, has sort of demonstrated to us what they think about our feelings on the project. The improvements to design are indeed laudable. Thank you for redrawing it. But let's consider going back to the drawing board for a couple of other issues. And I say this because this document that I read when I arrived made me feel like this was a foregone conclusion that this was happening. So I just want to address a couple of things that are in here. One of them having to do with the liquor sales. It says it's going to be in line with other gas stations in Glen Ellyn. Let's be revolutionary. Let's do something different. They've redrawn the drawing so that it looks nicer. I don't know where I am. Let's also maybe restrict those liquor sales. The trees. Do you see the trees that they're talking about keeping that creates that buffer for us? My neighbor mentioned they're all going to be torn down. They're all garbage trees, and you're going to put arbor vitae behind your vinyl fence. I don't really think that's going to create the buffer that you're kind of selling to us. And then as far as the stormwater goes, again, I would respectfully request that this be visited in the construction phase and revisited after, because while you say it's going to be a great improvement over the large amount of surface water that's currently draining on the site uncontrolled, I don't know that because I don't currently have a concrete pad that sends underneath 12 gas pumps and a canopy that's 18 feet in the air. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, again, Dan Porter is up, followed by Chris Greco.
I want to clarify one thing before I start. This is the area that everybody keeps talking about, the drop-off. This is the buffer of trees. This is exactly where the old gas station that didn't sell gas used to be. It used to sell pop and cigarettes. This is the new canopy. This entire buffer is 50 feet, right? It's 50 feet deep and it's 100 feet this way, right? It's a huge buffer. So that everybody understands what we're talking about, there's a 12-foot grade change. Mr. Senek was kind enough to come visit us yesterday and was kind of surprised to see that significance. And it's been mentioned here in meetings at 6 foot. It's 12 foot. So I just want to clear that up. In reading the meeting minutes, it's painfully evident we've not been heard correctly. So let me be perfectly clear. We're not interested in discussing candle lumens and building a beautiful 6-foot vinyl wall. We don't want a 24/7, 12-pump gas station that will set a precedent in Glen Ellyn right behind our homes. This gas station is 3 times larger than any previous gas station. It violates number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, number 7, and number 13 of the zoning code to promote the public health, safety, comfort, and general welfare. And this gas station puts the neighborhood health and safety at risk. Johns Hopkins University researchers found that an average of 40 gallons of gas is spilled at a typical gas station per year at the pumps. And the remaining runoff that they've talked about in the blue area is our backyard. We've already established our homes are 10 to 12 feet below the grade level. And as one of the village engineers told me to my face as we went to discuss the plan, well, let's face it, rain doesn't run uphill. Why was the Environmental Commission of Glen Ellyn excluded in this? There are 4 pages devoted in the newsletter this month about how we care about our environment. Is that for show or is it for real? Due diligence has not been done. I'm here to tell you, this is the first time we've seen all these people. They sent an architect who said to me at the very first meeting, what homes are you talking about? There are no homes that are planned. These are our homes. And these homes go all the way down the block. Mike O'Shea told me today the village has struggled with this property and that there is only one viable plan that came to the table or offer. And I get it.
It's Tim O'Shea, not Mike O'Shea. Please.
Sorry, Tim O'Shea.
Thank you.
To this I say the market's very different than it was 2 years ago. And perhaps, maybe, the only option isn't the best option. This project lacks creativity, it lacks vision. We have 4 gas stations we're going for now in the same corner. Or, I'm sorry, 4 convenience stores, right? We have the 7-Eleven that's kitty corner from the Walgreens that sells liquor that's next to Discount Liquor. Now we're going for 4 for 4. I think we can do better. I really think we can do better. Let's not do the only plan. Let's do the best plan. We're asking you don't do this to us.
Okay, and Chris Greco, you'll be next.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, Dan Porter, then Chris Greco. I'm sorry.
Thank you for all your comments so far, the passion and your time. Thank you for listening to us. It's been about 3 weeks now since I've been in this room meeting people at the village, and I'm proud to be part of this village. I really am. I'm so glad the CFO is here. That means something. You know numbers. Lindsay, very passionate about your grandfather, your experience in this business. 1919, that's awesome. I kind of feel like I'm at a shareholder meeting, and if we can take it, I'm a shareholder, this is my opinion, this is what's going on. You know, with 300 gas stations, if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter really. You know, I know Glen Ellyn's a jewel. It's a beautiful, I won't use the term gem, jewel. And if it, you know, in 3 years, it doesn't work, it's okay. You know, you guys are okay. I wish, you know, talking to your grandfather or great-grandfather or something, that's, you know, would he do this? Is it the best for us? I don't know. You know, I don't know what you're feeling. You traveled from Ohio. You mentioned corporate responsibility. Do you guys own the store on 83 and North Avenue? Have you been there recently? That's the store where the attendant left. She's working overnight. And then cops, and it was open all night with no attendant, no one working there. Remember that?
We're gonna keep it to public comment, not deliberations, please.
You got it. And at this point, this is when I think President Demos grabs the mic and goes, "Greed is good," Because what do I know? I don't know how this place works. I've only been in town here 4 years, so I'm a newbie. But in Hinsdale, this wouldn't happen. I don't think it would happen in Lake Forest, Winnetka, Glen Ellyn. I don't think it would happen. I think they'd listen to the people. We've had 3 gas stations there in the past or whatever. There's tanks in the ground, and that's why we can do a gas station here. We can do the deal. I would love to see the volunteers that paid for that park, the passive park across the street from this gas station, have those people that donated over close to $500,000. Get them together. Buy it. Make it a passive park. I know you guys want revenue. Revenue's important. I get it. But, take it from the little guy. It's going to get squashed by this. And a lot of people are going to be affected. If I was raising my kids down Forest and taking them to that school every day, I mean, the people from the 7-Eleven now that are there, that we get the benefit of dealing with, on a 24-hour basis, it's not pretty. And if I lived all the way down by the lake in a big house, I probably wouldn't care either. But we've only had 3 weeks. So my plea to the board is to give us more time. That's it. Just give us more time. Let's look at this. It's 3 weeks, and look at this place. It's full. Thanks.
After Chris, Joe Abel is next.
Thank you. Chris Greco, 614 Elm Street. Kind of as others have said here, it doesn't really feel right that we're here tonight. The first really meaningful public engagement only began recently. The village may be able to say that they've met the letter of the law, but I don't think they've met the spirit. A special use permit should be viewed as a privilege, and the village should hold the applicant to the highest standards. It does not appear that the village is intent on doing this. If the proposed application continues to be deficient, it would be unprecedented for the board to ignore the Planning Commission's 8-0 rejection of the application. If new information was submitted, it should go back to them for consideration. According to the village code, the application shall contain a narrative evaluating the economic effects on adjoining property, as well as noise, glare, odor, fumes, and vibration. I am not aware of any such statement by True North. I don't have time to go over all the aspects of the special use, so I will focus on a few. To begin with, the scale of the development that's going to tower over the adjacent properties, residential properties, is not harmonious with the neighborhood. Slapping some lipstick on it doesn't change that fact. This will fundamentally change the character of the neighborhood and is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. On the issue of stormwater, the proposed ordinance gives them the option of trying to give it the old college try to take it to the county sewer. That should be at least a condition of the approval. Go look at a gas station parking lot and see if you want that runoff running down your backyard. If the village is going to move forward, despite the strong opposition and limited, if any, support, there should be some compelling reasons behind it. It should go beyond getting rid of the property or validating the board's prior decision to enter this contract. Any sales tax revenue will be offset by cannibalizing tax revenue from nearby stores and a decrease in property values. In a June 2000 memo to the Planning Commission, the village acknowledged the potential impacts of the neighboring residential properties and stated that early engagement with the neighbors is important. It offered a number of suggestions on how to go about it, none of which appeared to happen. There is no reason to harp on on those missed opportunities now, but we are here now. Please listen. Thank you.
Joe Abel is up, followed by Kelly Kalinich.
My name is Joseph Abel, A-B-E-L. I'm a planning, zoning, and economic development consultant. Been doing this for over 50 years. I represent 606 Elm Street. I also am a resident of Glen Ellyn for 40 years, living at 200 Forest Avenue. I'd like to say I've followed a little bit of what goes on in this town, but I've never experienced anything like this. But as I say, I've been doing this for 50 years, and I was surprised when I came to the first hearing and heard the planner say that the property had already been given for a gas station. And it did seem sort of strange to me that, well, why did I come to the meeting if everything is already decided? Someone mentioned the newsletter that came out and said that. This brochure that came out by the staff sure looked like an advertising piece for the developer. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I just have never seen anything this bad in the 50 years I've been doing this. My big concern is that this has been pushed through to the point where the petitioner, talking about being a good citizen and wanting to cooperate with the community. I came to 2 public hearings. The first one at the Planning Commission. There was absolutely no one here except 3 gentlemen who probably didn't know anything about Glen Ellyn or the project. I can understand why the Planning Commission turned it down. I talked to one of the planning commissioners after, and he said, yeah, the presentation was slim. I said, you mean slim to none? There was absolutely no testimony. I have worked on projects like this, and I come with a team every time. There was no opportunity for cross-examination. From a planning and zoning standpoint, I think this whole process is illegal. You can't have a public hearing and present no information. We're hearing things tonight that you're seeing that were not presented at the public hearing. There is no opportunity for cross-examination. You know why that solid fence? Because their architect wasn't here and I didn't have a chance to talk to him, so I got up and I gave his testimony. I told the planning commission, I said, you can't do a fence next to a residential use with a gas station and have it board on board. The sound goes through. I work with sound experts I've just finished a big project in Aurora. This should be a sound attenuation fence all the way around this property. But there was nobody but anyway, finally the staff now says, yeah, they've changed their plan. Why? Because I gave expert testimony that the solid fence, or that the board on board doesn't work. Check the record and you'll see that. I had to give testimony to try and make this site a little better. This whole idea of a fence and the arborvitae around the property does not work. The plan that you saw this evening and that no one else has seen, even the Arts and Preservation, that's why they didn't vote on it. How you can vote on this without sending it back to the commission that has a responsibility for this is beyond me. The Plan Commission, again, voted unanimously against this. Because I'm being limited, I'm an expert witness to 3 minutes, I could go on and on about the comprehensive plan. This is totally against the comprehensive plan from a planning standpoint. I've done this for 50 years. The problem is there should have been a special study. You don't hire a broker, a real estate broker, to do your planning for you. You have a full staff that should be doing a special study on this area. But the fact remains, the most critical thing is you're looking at a flat plane. You have not seen that there is a 12-foot gorge there.
I'm going to ask you to conclude at this point.
But
Thank you, sir.
Well,
we're going to ask you to.
That's the way it always is.
Okay, Kelly Kalinich is next, followed by Andy Livingston.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Kalinich, and I live at 727 North Park Boulevard. I've lived in Glen Ellyn my entire life, and I will tell you this is the first time that I've attended a village board meeting, and I hope that that conveys the seriousness that I believe of this topic. I had the opportunity to email each of the trustees earlier today, and thank you for those of you who were able to get back to me to share your thoughts. I, in my former life, served as part of a board, so I appreciate deeply the commitment and often the difficult position that board members are in. I also want to express that I am in favor of development of the property that we're discussing. I'm just not in favor of the proposed project. The financial impact of this project appears to be very significant to the village, and I know that that's a primary responsibility of the board, and I respect that that's something you're trying to pursue, especially given the time frame from when the property was first purchased and where we are today. That's a large amount of time to have a property without revenue. That being said, I do want to ask a couple of questions, and I know you might not be able to answer me directly, but just to keep those thoughts in mind. I'm curious about your thinking that if you were to vote differently from the unanimous opinion of those that you've appointed, the people that serve on the Planning Commission, why you would oppose their recommendation. And then also related to that, I would be curious about how many times in the last 2 years the Planning Commission has made a unanimous recommendation that the Village Board has gone against. And then lastly, if you are not willing to reject the proposal this evening, could you please consider the examination by the Environmental Commission? I did look at the roles and responsibilities of the commission, and I see that they are not necessarily a group that reviews such work, but it seems that given the proposal that's before us, it would be really valuable to have their input as well. Thank you very much.
After Andy Livingston, we'll have Mary Beth Nelms.
I was wondering if we could get the picture of the gas station up again. My name is Andy Livingston. I'm at 789 Forest. I commend the board for what you've done in the past, and that is to preserve the integrity, the character, and the personality of Glen Ellyn. I think that's your job. If you take a look at the pictures on the wall, you'll see the part and parcel of Glen Ellyn. And if you look at the picture of the gas station, it is nowhere close to this. People live here for their homes, for the schools, for the parks. I've lived here for 25 years. I do not live here for the garbage pickup, even though it's excellent. I live here because of the community, the harmony, the integrity, the character of this town. That's your job. A 24/7 gas station does not belong next to our school or in our neighborhoods, just like everyone else has said. Please listen, and please do that job. Thank you.
After Mary Beth Nelms, we have Dana, it looks like Sample.
Thank you. My name is Mary Beth Nelms. I live at 1 North 144 Stacy Court. Earlier there was a picture of the proposed development of Five Corners. If there's a chance to get that picture back up, I can show you exactly where my home is. I've been there for 32 years. I was the crossing guard at Five Corners back in the 80s for Forest Glen School. I was there on Five Corners as a crossing guard for 10 years. That's it, yes, thank you. That one's better. Thank you. When my children were at Forest Glen, there were two operational gas stations, the Marathon and Rick Lord's Amoco gas station. Back then it was Five Corners. There was traffic coming and going from everywhere. It was crazy. Second most dangerous corner in the county, and yet there were children crossing that corner, all five of them, to get to Forest Glen School. Rick Lord's gas station was told that they had to close down. They detected gas leaking into the groundwater. I have my own well. I'm right behind the Walgreens project that is there right now. That was another planning village situation that I have survived. I've not thrived. And I am here tonight to support the people who live behind this proposed gas station, because I know what I've been through with the Walgreens, the liquor store, the Dairy Queen, and the vacant store that is there right now. It amazes me that the village did exactly what is being done now to get the Walgreens there. again, we are living with it. There was a forest there. It was beautiful. The Walgreens, okay, we're dealing with it. The Dairy Queen. We have the liquor store. We have Dairy Queen. We have drugs, liquor, and ice cream. I mean, it is what it is. But I'm not aware that the village of Glen Ellyn needs another liquor store, let alone one not even a block away from a grade school. Now, my house, I noticed, and this is the first time I noticed it, that I am in part of this zoning designation. They're planning on making my street into commercial, and I'm going to be there for a while, I hope. I've been there for a while, and I would just hope that you all would look deep into your hearts to realize that this is not the reason why I live and stay and choose to stay in Glen Ellyn. I don't believe that this project would be a benefit to the neighborhood, and it surely would not benefit all these people who have their backyards right up against it. Thank you for all your nobody appreciates, nobody shows their appreciation. I do, and I appreciate what you've done so far for the village. I would hope that you would go and vote against this, because I don't believe it's going to benefit the village. Thank you very much.
Leland Livingston will be next.
Hi, I'm Dana Sample. So yes, you did get my name right. Worst last name in the world, Sample. I'm at 861 Highview. So I'm actually on the other side of town, here to support my neighbors and my friends in Glen Ellyn here. I'm here tonight. I didn't actually expect to speak, but as I was listening, especially with the pastor and the other village business, what came to mind was what I heard on Wednesday at International Women's Day: be bold for change. So I'm here to ask you to be bold tonight. I realize there's a lot of history here, obviously. You've spent much time and energy, and you certainly need to do the village's business. You have to. There are services that will need to be provided and to be done with diminishing dollars. But we are a community. We are all here together, and I just encourage you strongly to think of the legacy for our children as those children walk across the street to that school. I'm concerned living across town from them, and I just am concerned so much for our legacy, for all of our legacy, and I hope that you will tonight please be willing to be bold. Be bold for change tonight. Thank you.
After Leland Livingston, we'll have Gary Pritchard.
Hi, and thank you so much for listening to us. And thank the family for coming. We know you're probably wonderful people. It's just we're pretty passionate about our neighborhood. I encourage you to be bold if you can. I live at 789 Forest, so these are all my neighbors. And that boldness is to say, well, okay, maybe we need the money, but we don't need it this badly. We don't need the revenue that's going to destroy these people's homes, destroy their the values for their property. Aside from, okay, maybe you don't feel that you can decide on it yet. There are so many things that haven't been decided yet that we have questions about. The drainage. Well, will the village let us, or will the county let us put our water in the drainage of the county? Trees. We don't know about trees. We don't know about fences. There's still too many things, too many questions. Environmental. Get the EPA out there. What can it hurt before it vanishes? Okay? There are things that need to be done. I think people have listed them. Still the questions that we have. The other thing, again, I reiterate, guys, walk in our shoes. You would never, ever in your life want this in your neighborhood. And I can't imagine that you would do something like that to us, your neighbors. It's just not right. Thank you.
Gary Pritchard is up, followed by William Morgan.
Hello, Gary Pritchard. I live at 771 Chichester. I'm a lifelong
nearly lifelong resident of Glen Ellyn, and I'm here to speak to two issues. One is I'm an environmental lawyer and wanted to note something that I haven't heard mentioned, is that gas stations release benzene. Benzene's a carcinogen. And US EPA in 2011 issued school siting guidelines. They're simply guidelines. In our system, we trust that local governments will look out for the welfare. The federal government doesn't regulate everything, and we have an election that stands for that proposition recently. But the point I wanted to make is that these decisions are left for the local governments to make about siting. And in those guidelines, or in the siting guidelines, EPA recommends that schools, if they're in siting schools within 1,000 feet of a gas station, that there be special consideration given. There is consideration being given here, but the point being, they made that recommendation 1,000 feet because benzene is a carcinogen. We have school children there. My kids went there, and it horrifies me to think that we might be putting a gas station less than 1,000 feet from a gas station. Second thing I wanted to mention is somebody handed this to me as I was coming in here, that so the ordinance allowing the Walgreens to be built, and I'm just quoting from it, there was a condition: the subject businesses shall only be operated between the hours of 6 a.m. and 12 a.m. So I wanted to mention that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Following William Morgan, we have Ginny Judd.
First and foremost, I just want to thank the board for the job you're doing. Working hard to increase the tax revenues, obviously very important for all of us here. We all have families to raise. We all appreciate the dollar. Thank you for being patient, for looking at all the options. There were very few, right? I mean, a couple. It's unbelievable. How can you not look at that and say, what else are we going to put here? How can you not blame the location, the property? All sorts of things have been cited. I did hear one person cite, which I thought was very, very good. We've been in the worst economic recovery in 8 years, right? That impacts opportunities, right? If you look, wages are up, jobs are up, development's up, things are up. Let's be patient. Let's take our time. Let's do this right. Let's put the right place in here. And this is not close, as you can kind of tell. But your job, in addition to the dollars, is also to protect, right? To protect the integrity of Glen Ellyn, to protect our kids, to protect, right? So, I mean, I'm all for the dollars. But when you go home tonight, I hope you do think about that. Putting that this close to a school is not right. But I also know that every property development has opposition. I mean, you must deal with this every time somebody comes up with a project. Half the room is for it, half the room is against it. I think that happens almost every time. I also think this one's different, right? You're looking at this retail or that retail. Some people like it, some people don't. I don't think they have the element of danger that is associated with this one. That's why we have North Avenue. That's why we have Roosevelt. That's why we have commercial districts for properties just like this. This thing would look phenomenal. It would be the best looking gas station on North Avenue. It doesn't belong here. Right? So anyway, this is different for the host of reasons. I'm just going to pick my top four because they are critical. It is so close to a school, right? If a development doesn't work, so be it. They move on. If a kid gets killed, it's on the conscience. That's why I'm up here right now, right? I don't want to own that. I can't look my kids in the face and say, you know what, I voted for something like this. I didn't stand up for this. If somebody else's kid dies, that's bad. That is unbelievable. Don't let that happen. 2, that's a crazy corner. If you ever drive up St. Charles, that's a hill, right? Walgreens put their drive way the heck down that hill because when you're coming up a hill, they make a left-hand turn into that gas station. Somebody's going to be trying to make a yellow light. Somebody else is going to get killed. So now we got kids and we got citizens. Not worth it. One thing that hasn't been mentioned is the domino effect, right? You put a gas station in there, the properties nearby become rentals, right? Nobody wants to live next to a rental. They become more commercial. The people who live blocks in from those rentals, they move. You're risking the domino effect. We can avoid that here. Put this thing on Roosevelt or put it on North Avenue. And again, this is not the village plan. This is like 4th on my list, but it's just not. It doesn't belong in that location. It seems like a pretty simple decision. I hope you agree.
Okay, Ginny Judd is up, followed by Mike Semprevivo.
Hi, I'm Ginny Judd, and I live at 955 Highland Avenue. Thank you for listening to all of us. I don't have anything new to add, but I want to make sure that you know that I also am opposed to this, and I agree with what everyone else has said. Thanks.
Following Mike, we have John Mitchell, or Michael.
Good evening, I'm Mike Sempervivo. I live at 22W488 Emerson Avenue. I am at the tip of the pink line there. I basically get to listen to the Dairy Queen drive-through speaker from my front porch. As much as I love going to Dairy Queen with my kids, and Mr. Franz knows I love taking my sports teams to Dairy Queen after the games and practice, I don't like having a beer on my deck listening to people order blizzards at 9:30 at night. And I feel that the people who back up to this gas station will experience worse than that. Are the pin pads on the gas pumps going to be silent? Are we going to have gas station TV at every pump? Are we going to hear the dumpster every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. get dumped out, which is right on the property line of this development? I worry about that. I also worry about the fact that a good portion of downtown is vacant. I know you guys aren't in the business of holding on to vacant property, but it appears to me you're also not in the business of developing vacant property that you don't own in downtown. If you want to develop tax revenue, make it enticing for people to want to come into a vacant McChesney, a vacant Schmid, a vacant Gishi, a vacant hardware store, a vacant Tap House Grill, a vacant Katie's Boutique. That Southeast Main Street is empty. It's embarrassing. And you want to go ahead and do this. The Walgreens property, I moved into my house 13 years ago. I've lived in Glen Ellyn all of my life, though. The Walgreens property, when you first built it, was very nice. The shrubs and trees were well maintained. The grass was well manicured. Now I have a dandelion-infested lawn with a fence that does nothing but catch garbage. And my wife has to go trim the shrubs off the sidewalk to walk our kids to school. Are you going to hold True North accountable when it comes to cleaning up the property? When that fence is a garbage catch-all, are you going to hold them responsible? Are you going to make sure that they are trimming the bushes and keeping the grass green? Because it's not happening at Walgreens, and nobody in this town is holding them responsible at all. On top of that, Walgreens is closed at 10 o'clock at night, and their lights are on in the parking lot till 2 o'clock in the morning. No one holds them responsible. Are we going to give True North that much more rope where they can do what they want to do? I have 2 young children to go to Forest Glen, a 3rd grader and a kindergartner. They have to take the bus to school because they cannot walk to school. It's too unsafe. I watched a 49-year-old man get put in an ambulance 4 years ago that got killed on that corner, a motorcyclist turning into the Walgreens parking lot. I'm sure the policemen here can attest to the number of accidents that happen on that intersection. They're constantly out there sweeping up broken taillights and glass, and I hope that you guys will reconsider this proposal and keep our corner safe. Thank you.
John Michael will be next, followed by Mark Oldman.
My name is John McKaylee. I'm at 548 St. Charles. I'm not directly affected by this, but like the rest of the community, I'm deeply interested in how this turns out. Before my time starts, can I ask a procedural question?
Stop the clock for a second.
So in this venue, we don't take sworn testimony, and there's no cross-examination of the new facts presented by the adjoining property owners?
Not at the village meeting, no.
Thank you. This first image that was this image that was shown earlier by someone was really informative. It's interesting because where the store is located has never been constructed on in village history, and you're proposing to put something there that has never had a property. This lot sits behind those 2 other stores. True North has built now 300 stations, and they've shown some pretty pictures here, and as we all know, these things rarely turn out as presented. But there are some pictures of True North properties in the area that are taken off of Google Maps. I mean, I think this is more representative of the product that they present. And I think that's what we're gonna end up seeing here, which is a C-store built to sell vapes, blunts, beer, and the occasional gas customer who's using the gas pumps for parking, which is how it's intended. It's a C-store, not a gas station. It'll be the fourth gas station that exists at this corner. And the estimate in the paperwork is that they're gonna produce $140,000 in taxes. If I'm not mistaken, that's roughly 5% of the village's take, 1/20th of village taxes from one location. That seems to indicate that they're gonna do $60,000 to $80,000 a day. The gas stations down the street do $15,000 a day. You can walk in, you can ask the clerks, how much do you do? We do about 15,000, we do 15 to 20. I'd like to remind the board that this is a public property that you guys own. This is not a private property owner coming to us and asking for his rights to build and have a business here. You've been pushing this in such a way, it's kind of frightening. I read in the FAQ that the liquor license is assumed. I mean, you just state outright that there's going to be a that liquor sales will be required end at midnight. Liquor sales will be handled similar to other gas stations going on. There isn't even a liquor license for this property. You have to create it. Then you have to go through the process of approving it. And here it's just assumed. I'd also like to point out that the Walgreens across the street, the board, the planning commission went to great lengths to ensure that those properties there weren't harmed. Far greater lengths of protecting those properties than we're seeing with this property so far in this process. And then I'd also like to point out that perception's reality. As this neighborhood turns, and we know it'll turn, the properties that are behind where they're going to build the gas station that has never been built on before, they're doomed. That's fine. That's the way business works. The other properties, as it dominoes through, are going to create an area. And realtors, as we've already been told in the Architectural Review Commission, realtors are going to point to this area as a no-go area. You don't want to send your kids to Forest Glen School. It's not the best school. It's in a bad neighborhood. They're already doing that and redlining that area to a certain extent.
I'm going to ask you to conclude, please.
And I'd also, and in closing, I think I'd like to point out that not a single member of the community has come here and stated that they want a gas station. And everybody has been saying, oh, everybody wants a gas station. And yet none of them have shown up. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Mark Boltman.
Good evening, Mark Boltman, 453 Stagecoach Run in Glen Ellyn. Thanks for the time. I'd like to thank the board and everyone else who's here for the presentation. You know, a lot of people have already taken the ideas I was going to speak about, so instead of echoing everyone else's comments already, I wanted to focus real quickly on what appear to be the finances. In the packet we were handed tonight, it looked like there was the number 140,000 looked like the annual sales tax revenue here, unless I'm reading that incorrectly. I just eyeballed the budget real quick from 2016. The total village revenue was $58 million. Estimated for 2017, it's $62 million. So unless my math's incorrect or there's numbers that I'm missing, that's 0.2% of the revenue. That's 1/5 of 1% of the overall village revenue is what we're kind of talking about here. That's a very underwhelming number, in my opinion, for what I consider to be a pretty impactful, in a negative way, project for the community, the residential neighborhoods, the school within 500 feet. And I want to just point that out as some perspective around the numbers, knowing what the overall budget is versus what the estimated income from the project is. So I think that's worth noting for everybody on the board as you kind of go through this, and something that should have been probably included in the packet for review for the folks who are here. I understand it's been, looks like 5 or so years of trying to find, a suitable buyer, a suitable developer. I get it. You guys are in a real tough spot, and you're neck deep in finding a suitable buyer and project here. I hope you feel from the crowd here tonight, and maybe some perspective backing away from how close you've been involved in this, that this isn't the answer, this isn't it. And there's I don't know what the right answer is, but clearly a gas station there at the historic gateway to Glen is not the answer. And I hope you take all that into consideration when you vote this evening. Thank you.
Catherine, that's the last person signed up.
That's it.
Is there anyone else, either in this room or the overflow room? You can step forward and.
Christy Bockelman?
Hi, my name's Christy Bockelman. I live at 765 Prairie Avenue, about 3 long blocks west of where you're talking about. I Googled today how many gas stations there were in our neighborhood. There are over 20 within just a couple of miles. There's no shortage of the ability for us to get somewhere to get gas. We obviously don't need the convenience store. We don't need the noise pollution, the air pollution, the water pollution. We don't need the potential crime that we know that it's gonna bring, nor do we need this anywhere near our kids. This is a nightmare. It's a really bad idea. I agree with everyone that's spoken here. Please vote no.
My name is Glen Tedford. I live at 22W533 Emerson Avenue. I'm a neighbor of Mike Sempervivo, behind Walgreens, basically. I consider Glen Ellyn to be a pedestrian town. That's why we love it. We almost had to move because of the high cost here. We couldn't find another community as amazing as our community. We are well willing to pay the extra cost to be here. We love it. I go out for jogs. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I go out for jogs pretty regularly. I almost get hit by a car probably 9 out of 10 times that I cross that intersection. That is not a joke. Actually, if I happen to go at a certain time during the day, you could probably see me, waving my arms, trying to get the attention of the vehicles going by. There are signs to clue in drivers that there is no turn on when there are pedestrians present. People do not follow that sign. With a gas station there, I cannot even imagine what it will be like at that intersection. I get fearful every time my kids come to that intersection. I will be absolutely honest. Another thing I can honestly say, and this may be shooting myself in the foot considering that this could possibly bring in some tax dollars for our community, I will not use your gas station. And I'm betting that the 700 some people that signed your petition will not use the gas station, and I guarantee many of us will continue to spread the word on that. There are very many influential people, I believe, in this room, and many people who know influential people in our community, and we will not stop. So if we are really looking at this being a beneficial thing for our community, I'm actually feeling quite confident it will not be, and I will do my part to make sure it's not.
We have Peter Clifford.
Peter Clifford, I'm at 793 Forest. A lot of my neighbors, friends, neighbors, new people that have spoken on our behalf tonight have said a lot of wonderful things, a lot of things, all of which I support. No offense, I'm not supportive of the station. But don't listen to me. If there's one voice you remember from tonight, don't remember mine. Don't remember these. Remember that little girl that was crying in the back for the first half of the meeting who had to go home. Her home is immediately adjacent to the 7-Eleven and would be in that corner of the picture that we all saw, right between I guess it'd be the 7-Eleven and then the True North backing up to her bedroom window. She's the one that's gonna bear the brunt of this. She's the one that's gonna have to grow up under these conditions. We're all adults, we can move. We'll all, be gone relatively soon compared to her. But just, someone mentioned it earlier, don't let this be your legacy for the children of Glen Ellyn. We moved here 3 years ago because this was the right place for our kids. We live a block away, a stone's throw away. I think Jay Cutler could even hit it with a ball. Don't let this be your legacy to the children of Glen Ellyn, which I think, if you poll the room here, is the reason we're all here tonight. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Is there anyone in the overflow room that would like to speak? No? Thank you. I'm going to close public comment on this point so we could get into questions and deliberations, but I'm gonna, a few people have requested a short personal break, so we're going to take 3 minutes here. If anyone needs to use the bathroom.
Sir.
All right, we're going to call the meeting back to order. Going to start with trustee questions, please.
I have some questions for the staff, first of all, and then I have some questions for the applicant, or the petitioner. I saw in the material I received that the use of the property is limited based on the focused no further remediation letter.
Yes.
Could you tell me, was that letter provided to, it wasn't in the packet I received. I've not seen that letter.
I have the letter. It was provided to the board a number of times, but not with this particular packet.
Okay. What are the limited uses that are prescribed in
The focused?
Yeah.
So what happened is we applied for a no further remediation letter. And we went into this, we went into the site remediation program instead of the LUST program. So what we received was a no further remediation of any of the incidents or the leakage incidents that happened on the site, nothing off-site. So it basically said that it wasn't necessarily, the soil wasn't removed or there was no chemicals injected into the land to try to clean it. It just said you can go forward with redeveloping the property provided a number of controls are in place. The first is that there never be a well drilled on the property for potable water. So we were required to adopt an ordinance that said that, and we did that. You can't have any use that has children, like a daycare, or seniors, like a nursing home, no residential. And those people that ultimately develop the property need to be aware of what's in the ground, and the True North has been fully made aware of that. And so they have to have the appropriate protections, and the environmental person probably knows better than me, but for OSHA protections to make sure that that the workers are protected. If there is any soil removed from the site, which there would be in this instance, the soil will be removed and have to be disposed of in an environmentally appropriate manner, which is more expensive than not. And so what would end up happening is there would be less contaminated soil on the site if those were redeveloped.
Excuse me, can I just ask the audience, we were respectful and quiet during comments, questions, and answers for you. Could we just please not be distracted by yourselves and listen to the answers and the questions that are being addressed? Please, thank you.
Other than the limitations of a daycare or a senior facility, are there any other
residential.
limitations on the use specifically?
No, not commercial related uses. It's basically residential, children and elderly.
In its own commercial, I take it residential couldn't be built
Correct.
there, really. On page 4 of the frequently asked questions, it says the village does not have any data supporting that the gas station will cause an increase in crime based on the activity at the village's other gas stations. And so my question is, did we look at any of the crime data for gas stations in general? And what did we have in terms of data from the other gas stations? And whoever.
I was not asked to look at any crime data for this corner. And when you talk about crime, I want to be clear. You can't predict crime, but certainly an empty vacant parcel of land receives very few calls for service. There will inevitably be some calls for service if a gas station goes in there. Typically it would be drive-offs where people don't pay, or shoplifting. Those are the typical type of calls we'd see there that we're obviously not experiencing in a vacant lot now.
I'm interested in knowing whether there was any effort to look at the other gas stations that are in the village and determine what the crime rate or crime data was for those for purposes of determining whether there would be an increase in crime as a result of the gas station.
No, I don't think that study was conducted, but I think you also have to look at where gas stations are located and what's around them and what might contribute to an increase in crime. For example, a gas station in a high crime area is going to see more calls for service than a gas station in the country. So just being a gas station in and of itself makes it difficult to compare it to just another gas station. There's other environmental factors you have to look at.
There's been some question about the effect of, this isn't for you, I don't know,
Okay,
unless you
sit
have
back
something
down.
to offer
I'm
home
happy to sit
value.
down.
Don't get too comfy, I've got to
There's been some discussion about the effects this would have on home values in the area. Is there any effort by the village to make an assessment of what effect, if any, that it would have on homes and what the geographic area would be that might be affected?
We do not have and have not had that study done. I am not sure if, when we get to True North questions, if they have any data in that regard.
With respect to the lighting, I understand that True North has complied with the village code with respect to lighting. Do you know whether the lighting that's being proposed complies with the Illuminating Engineers Society of North American standards or the International Dark Sky Association?
I do not. I can tell you that the village's requirements for lighting fixtures on the building and on the site are more restrictive than I've seen for other communities, where it has to be shielded on all sides, and none of the shielding has to go below where any bulb might be exposed. But I'm not familiar with those other standards.
There have been some concerns expressed about the noise levels that would result from operation of the facility. Did the village do anything to determine what's an acceptable noise level and how it might increase as a result of this? For instance, what would be an acceptable limit for outside noise levels in a community of this kind?
We did not. The way we handle noise-related issues is we have a section in the supplemental section of the zoning ordinance which has a maximum decibel level for all properties in the village. If there were to be an issue, we would require a property owner to submit a study showing that they didn't exceed that.
Has Near North provided any type of data from their other facilities that would indicate what the decibel level is that is measured in those facilities?
They have not.
I noticed the traffic study, there was a traffic study that was done by True North, I said Near North, True North, and then that was reviewed by a traffic consultant hired by the village.
Correct.
Do you know how many trips per day were determined to be, that would occur at the site? What would be the increase in trips per day as a result of a convenience store gas station of this size?
Okay, so I don't have that information exactly on the top of my head. I can tell you that our traffic consultant stated that the vast majority of the trips to this gas station would not be people coming from afar to this gas station. They would be cars or vehicles already passing by, already on the roadways, so passerby traffic.
So I take it from that there wasn't projected to be a dramatic increase in the number of trips per day?
No.
Obviously, environmental has been a big concern that's been expressed by many of the residents. Did the village do any type of environmental impact study? And in particular, did we consider the environmental impact on the students at Forest Glen or the residents in the neighborhood?
Our process does not require an environmental impact study, so we did not require them to submit it. They were fully aware and provided all of our environmental studies that have been completed to date, which were pretty extensive, that we submitted to the IEPA in order to get the no further remediation letter though.
Do you know whether a gas station is considered to be an environmental hazard by EPA standards?
I do not know that.
Do you know what the distance is from the pumps at the proposed gas station to Forest Glen School, to the front door?
I do not. I could measure it on the screen.
I just have some further questions for True North.
Ryan, you might have to.
Do you want to, should I do that now?
You can ask them, yes, absolutely.
Okay, sure.
Oh,
okay.
Any other question?
How many gas stations do you operate nationwide?
We own or at least 300. We operate ourselves about 110.
Do you have data about noise levels at those gas stations?
We do not.
Will you be selling diesel fuel at this location?
Only auto diesel. We don't sell like truck diesel type of, we don't have high fueling diesel pumps or anything like that.
If semi-tractor trailers wanted to, could they refuel at this station?
It would be very tight turning radiuses, but they potentially could. It would also be very slow fueling for them compared to what they're used to, so they typically avoid us. And that's really not who we're marketing to.
Yeah,
so,
I understand. The capacity, the underground tanks.
Yes.
How many will there be?
There will be 2 tanks.
What will be the capacity of those tanks?
I believe we have a 20 and a 15,000 each.
What is the projected throughput of gasoline for the facility?
I would ask that's a proprietary matter. I would be
How
happy
about
to
this
share
one?
that with the board, not in public forum.
It's okay. Do you think it'll exceed 3.6 million gallons a year?
No, I don't.
Tell me a little bit about, you've and outlined some of the environmental safeguards that have been put in place.
Yeah, and that's a particular topic that was brought up numerous times tonight, particularly vapors being released into the air. Would it be okay if we expand on that and I ask?
I'm going to ask that question anyway, so it would be okay from my standpoint, because I want to hear about the vapor recovery technology that's at the station, both at the pump level and at the storage tank level.
David, could you join me to talk on that matter, please?
Storage tank systems today are pretty much run on a closed loop system. When someone dispenses gasoline at the vehicle or at the pump, vehicles since 1998 have onboard canisters that recover the vapors as the gasoline displaces the vapor in the tank. So
that's the car itself?
In the car itself.
Okay, thank you.
It used to be, we used to have what they call stage 2 vapor recovery, where there was piping that actually, through a vac system, brought the vapors back to the tank. But since 1998, since cars have been manufactured with onboard canisters, that in 2014, the EPA eliminated the stage 2 controls, and because there was enough of those vehicles that are circulating nationwide that the majority of vapors would be recovered through onboard canisters. When we drop a load of fuel into the tank, every tank is equipped with what they call a stage 1 vapor recovery riser. So you have a fill riser and you have a stage 1. You hook to the fill. As you fill the tank, the vapors are displaced and come out of the stage 1 riser and go back to the tanker. Everything goes back to the terminal, where it's actually it's sort of a closed loop system. So there isn't any escape of vapors during either dispensing or filling of the tanks. If that makes sense.
It does. Do you measure at all at any of your stations the effects of the vapor recovery systems? Meaning, do you do any testing to determine what the vapor loss is during fueling?
Well, if we're not getting proper adequate vapor recovery during filling up of a tank, of our underground tanks, then you get a vapor lock in your tank system and you get restricted flow into the tank. You know, the vent systems are set up under a pressure system. They'll release vapors under certain amounts of pressure, but it's designed so that if you start getting restriction of flow, then you stop and investigate to see what the obstruction is.
Let me understand one thing. With respect to the pump handle, is there any vapor recovery technology or system on the pump handle?
Not on the handle anymore, no.
Okay, is the reason for that is because there's vapor recovery systems on the vehicles?
On the vehicles, correct.
And so that's no longer necessary?
It's no longer necessary since 2014.
Another area of technology I'm interested in knowing about is the spill control technology that is available and what's implemented at the station. Can you tell me what that is?
Spill control in terms of filling the tank?
Either filling the tank by the consumer or filling the tank by the distributor, I guess.
All right, we'll start with the tank itself. Overfill prevention at the tank. Every tank at the fill port has a spill bucket that's permanently affixed in around the fill pipe, and it's concreted in. You got your lid on top. So any of the residual product that might be in the transfer hose, if they disconnect, will be able to contain in that bucket, so it's not released onto the pavement. So that's the spill prevention at the tank. We also have spill prevention measures that are in the drop tube that restrict flow when the tank is 90% full, and then it shuts off flow automatically at 95% full, so you don't overfill the tank and cause a release onto the tank.
That's for someone who's filling their car with gas.
No, that's filling the tank. We're talking about the underground tank
Okay.
right now. Now, filling the car with the gas, you got the auto shut-off valve that is on the handle that will shut off when the fuel reaches the top part of the vehicle or the tank, and it'll shut the handle off automatically. Under the fire code, the customer is to be at the fueling point while they're dispensing gasoline per the Illinois fire code. But
Yeah,
there is
I'm
that
sure
safety.
that's followed by everybody who fills their tank.
So.
You also note in the material that there's gonna be an oil and debris separator that was, I saw it as being proposed for the catch basins.
Yes, and the
Is
one,
that
the
now-
downstream catch basin, it has a baffling system in there that if there was a surface spill that reached that catch basin, the fuel that floats on water, because fuel is lighter than water by specific gravity, would sort of be retained in the catch basin, and only the water would be able to leave the system.
Are those catch basins installed along St. Charles Road? Is that the area, or where are they located?
It was the one that I saw, I didn't look at all the drawings, but it was the east side of the property that was just prior to the discharge going into the stormwater retention area.
All right. Do you know whether those types of catch basins are part of the storm sewer along St. Charles Road or on Main Street?
I believe correct me if I'm wrong, there's proposed for all the catch basins.
So is it that those catch basins are gonna be modified to include that type of technology, or does it exist now?
The catch basins are proposed to include that technology in the new construction.
And I appreciate that. I'm interested in what's on the roadway. Will those catch basins also be incorporated into what's on the roadway?
No, the stuff that's operated by the DuPage will not have those.
With respect to trees, we've heard some concerns about the trees. Can you just tell me how many there are now, how many will be removed, and how many will be replaced?
That's.
So we can give you accurate information. Could I get the landscape architect up to join us? I apologize, I just want to make sure that we adequately answer your
No, I appreciate
questions
that.
with accuracy.
My name's Randy Metz. I'm the landscape architect on the job. First of all, when we were required to do a tree survey for this project, we followed the city ordinances, which would only require us to identify and locate trees, mature trees 10 inches in caliber and larger. So that's any tree breast height that would have a diameter of 10 inches or larger. Those are the trees that you see located on the plan. Trees that you see that have X's in them are the trees that are being removed. Many of these trees, yes, are being removed due to the fact that they will be falling within the area that's going to be constructed. Trees in the back portion of the property, which is to the south of the gas station location, the building location, those trees that are X's are currently ash trees which are dead or will be dying due to the emerald ash borer. Again, keep in mind, we only located trees that are 10 inches or larger. There are numerous trees out there that will be preserved that are less than that size.
Do you plan on planting trees, or what type, other than what we've heard about in terms of?
As part of the landscape plan, yes, we are proposing some additional plantings around the pavement areas, buffering from, or basically landscape buffers from both St. Charles Road, Main Street. We're providing as it's been brought up a couple of times tonight, arborvitaes along the back portion that will grow to a height when fully mature of 20 to 30 feet and will provide a necessary screening of any excess light that residents would possibly see. So we are, in a sense, though it's not a requirement by the ordinance, providing some additional landscaping to mitigate the trees that are being removed.
If that landscaping proves to be insufficient, are you prepared to add landscaping to this that would effectively screen the station from the people behind it?
That would be up to the True North people.
What do you think?
Sure. So, I mean, we would take a look at anything that was practical, I think. We are committed to the project. We've made numerous concessions, as I've demonstrated earlier, and we would take a practical look.
Let me ask you this, are you committed?
Mark, I just want to mention something. If this project is approved tonight, it will go back to architectural review, in which case the tree preservation and the landscape plan will be addressed by them and then brought back to us for approval. So at this point, there hasn't been a landscape plan that has been approved by our commissions to come back to us. So there's still, just so you understand.
Understood. I mean, are you committed to providing a buffer that will shield the station from the residential homes that are, I guess, at south of it?
Absolutely.
Okay. With respect to the lighting, is the lighting in compliance with the Illuminating Engineers Society of North America and the Dark Sky Association?
The engineer, no.
We have to select fixtures that are, but the fixtures in the canopy are all downlight, and they're pure downlight, they're flat lens. And the goosenecks are completely downlight. So the dark sky, we've had fixtures where they're made to illuminate both ways, and they actually put something over them to keep it purely downlight. Our fixtures are, by their original design, purely downlight.
I saw that there was this idea of noise, the idea that the station would not result in any excessive noise. And I'm curious how you came to the conclusion that that was true. What was the benchmark that you used to determine what constituted reasonable noise, and how you concluded that this wouldn't result in any excessive noise?
Well, I guess the point was just brought up by the fact that the noise that's already on the street we're right on the corner, so you have noise from the street on St. Charles and Main Street. So a car that's gonna pull into the station is gonna basically just pull in off the street, stop his car, fuel, and then go back out. So just the car in itself is not adding any additional noise to what's not already there right now.
Did you measure the noise levels that are at that location now in absence of the station?
No, there has not been a noise level study done at this point.
Do you know what the EPA specifies as appropriate noise levels for residential areas?
No, I do not know that.
That's all I have.
Dean?
I got almost nothing left. Stacy, I have one for you and one for Chief Norton. Could you, the map one that I asked you about earlier, could you put that one up again just for a moment? What I'm interested in is the fencing heights, and do they vary across the project, or is it a single height from?
So the fence that's shown here, that's in the red, all the way kind of surrounding the site, that is proposed to be the maximum fence height that we allow, which is 6 feet. There's also a fence proposed along the detention area, which will be a 4-foot open, it's split rail. There you go. I was thinking horse fence.
And does the 6-foot fence height, particularly along the east border of the property, does that in any way shield the neighbors to the east?
There is a
from the building?
significant grade differential. You've heard a little bit about what it is now, and then you've heard a little bit from, the staff of what it will be after the site is graded. That's where the difference is that we're talking about. But this is going to be at the lower elevation. And so that's why they're proposing actually very large trees, 8 foot tall, to go in immediately. So they'll provide an additional buffer from this location.
Okay, great, thank you. Chief Norton, if you would, given what you've heard thus far, do you anticipate any impact on staffing requirements for the police on the north end of town, or for supposed traffic, or for whatever nefarious activities might be going on there? Does that change the way you set up your patrol districts?
No. You're asking me purely about a staffing issue?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Do you have any concerns about this as it relates to your department?
Well, we were part of the conversation about the traffic flow. And we did not want, I think we were probably the driving force behind the 3-quarter entrances on both sides to eliminate. I think the county didn't want the left turn out onto St. Charles, which is understandable. We didn't want the left turn in off of Main Street because we didn't want to back traffic up. So the impact to the police department will probably be some level of calls for service up there, and the time-to-time observation of someone making an illegal turn or backing traffic up. If someone makes a turn into that gas station where they're not supposed to, probably would result in a warning, I would guess, unless they're sitting there with cars backing up out into the intersection, where I think a ticket would probably be warranted in that case.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got.
Pete?
Stacy, I'll start with you. Do you remember about how long ago, what the dollar amount was that we bid? Not sure if it was before you were here, but at some time in history,
Oh no,
that
this
property
is,
sold for
this is all me.
close to $1.5 million.
So when we started in 2005, I shared that whole timeline, and in 2005, we did begin negotiations for purchasing the site. At that time, it was before the economy dipped, and the value was $1.4 million that we were offering for the site.
I remember there was a significant difference from what we ended up getting it for. And one of my other questions that I heard mentioned a few times from residents was, being that there was a gas station there before for decades, why would it need to come for a special use for another gas station? I mean, it seems like a common sense question.
Because of the period of time has lapsed. So non-conforming uses or special uses can continue as long as it's been vacant for less than 180 days, and obviously we've passed that.
Right, I seem to remember that on other matters. And then I think Chief Norton touched on it, but you will not be able to turn left as you're heading west on St. Charles Road, because that was a concern brought up
Correct.
from a resident.
That was a DuPage County requirement.
Nor will you be able to turn left as you're heading south on Main Street, and that concern was brought up.
You
by
will be able to make a left turning southbound, but that won't create traffic concerns for people on the roadway, because it will just stack into the site. So you can make a left out to go southbound on Main Street, but you can't make a left in because that will stack people into the intersection.
Okay, all right, that's what I meant. I think I'm good, and then I just have one question for True North. There was a comment made by a resident about, and maybe I'm misstating this, that average gas station spills 40 gallons of gas a day. I mean, do you experience losses like that?
No, certainly not.
Oh,
It's an annually.
Okay, good. All right, good. I thought this is not possible. So, and then is Phil still here?
He stepped
Do you
out.
mind? Pardon me?
He stepped out.
All right, I'll wait till he comes back in. So, other than that, I'm good.
So I just want to confirm, tonight our vote is solely on special use and
Correct.
signage variations. Okay, I have numerous questions for the other categories, but for those two, I am between the questions here, I'm good.
Oh, you know some things. I don't know if these questions are pertinent to the special use, but I do have a question about the Plan Commission. So Stacy, maybe you can help me out here. So they denied the special use. That's all they looked at?
They looked at everything.
But they didn't vote on anything but the special use.
Right, so they were presented everything, they had a discussion about all the issues, and when one of the plan commissioners went to make a recommendation for denial, there was a brief discussion amongst the members that said, well, if we're not gonna approve the use, there's no sense in making a recommendation on the variations. So, they only made a recommendation on the special use.
So my understanding is if we approve this, this goes back to Plan and ARC, and then Plan will review everything else, and it will still come back to us for final approval.
Yes.
Okay. So this is not to start the project. If the special use is approved, we go back and we go through the proper channels, the legal channels, the public hearings, et cetera. Everyone still has time to discuss with the Plan Commission all the other issues. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure you stated that correctly, but the special use is...
Yeah, that's for tonight. That's all we're approving, special use, but still has to go through for the variation and the signage and landscaping.
Signage is tonight.
Signage is tonight too?
Signage is
Okay.
signage and special use.
Did Plan Commission approve signage, or did they not?
ARC did.
ARC did, okay, gotcha. That was just the last meeting they had?
Correct.
Gotcha, okay. Minutes disappeared. Okay, I just had a question about the fence location with that exact graphic. Just so I understand, the property line for to the south there is actually another 20, 25 feet south, correct?
Yes, the property line is this darker
Okay.
line here.
So their fence, they're really kind of not giving that land up, but they're not utilizing that land. That will stay as just open space, vegetation, the trees that
Correct.
are
Other than
currently
the-
staying there will be there. So they'll still have that buffer for the residents behind it.
Yes, other than the dead ash trees.
Ash trees, correct.
Due to the emerald ash borer. They could have placed the fence down at this lower level, but it really wouldn't provide, because of the grade difference, it really wouldn't provide a lot of screening. Plus, they would have had to cut about a 5 to 10 foot swath of all of the landscaping along that line to put the fence in. So that's why they're proposing it up closer to the building at a higher elevation.
And
It'd
the
be more
petitioner has
effective.
no real reason to use that land. There's no plans to use that land. That will just remain as natural buffer.
That is accurate.
Okay. In terms of the grading, there's been some comments about 12 feet, 6 feet. I just want to confirm that currently there is a 12-foot grading difference. But when the property is actually constructed, you'll be grading it down, and the grade will go down to only a 6-foot difference? Is that why we have a differential between the 12 and 6 feet?
For the most accuracy, maybe our engineer could speak to that.
Yeah, just to clarify, the finished floor of the building, of the convenience store, will be at the grade elevation of 763.5. The grade at the southeast corner of the property is at 757. So again, that's 6 feet from building corner, from building finished floor to the southeast corner property line. Is the southeast corner the lowest point of that property? No, the southeast corner is the lowest point, and that elevation is at 752. So there is an 11-foot drop from the building finished floor to the far southeast corner of the property. So southeast is the bottom right. Correct. And again, right now, the property, as you know, the property slopes both to the east and to the south. So
outside the fence that's shown.
yeah, bottom right, yeah. So that's why I say when everything is sloping to the east and to the south, the bottom right-hand corner is gonna be your lowest point of the property. But everything from the building is going to run and drain to the north. Is that correct? Yes. Or to your retention area? Yes. Yes, everything from the building point going north is going to drain into the detention area. That detention area is going to drain into St. Charles Road, that's correct. So what's currently draining to the south. Yeah, so again. So the blue will continue to run to the south. As it currently does right now. And everything else should run to the north. Okay. Then just a question about the catch basin that we talked, the technology of, that you will catch some of this spillage. What happens? Does that get cleaned out then? How do you know? Yeah, you know what, I'm gonna pass that off to my civil engineer. I'm just curious how that catch basin works and how it actually splits the water.
It's a removable device that it catches debris and oil.
Okay.
And then they remove that, they make it easy to remove, clean it, put it back.
And how often do you have to maintain those and clean those? Before maybe the oil gets too high and then the oil starts running into the regular water?
It depends, you know, if there's.
How often do you check them, I guess, then? What's your maintenance record with that? I mean, how do you, anybody have a comment on that? I mean, how often do you have to manage and maintain these catch basins and look and make sure that they're not full?
Well, we're required by the state of Illinois, the fire marshal, to do weekly inspections of our spill buckets and all of our containments on site. And with this being a potential surface receptor, we would have to look at it weekly to make sure if it needs cleaned out, we'd get it cleaned out and call it in maintenance. But generally, if you did have an incident or a surface spill, you'd respond to that immediately. You wouldn't wait for any period of time to get it cleaned out and to acceptable terms.
Okay, thank you. Just two more, Chief, back, Chief.
Can I just add one more thing just to kind of clarify? We did get confirmation from DuPage County that they will be accepting the stormwater from our site to their storm sewer on St. Charles Road.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Chief, just a question, quick. Is the Shell station on Roosevelt and Park, is that 24/7?
Yes.
Car wash also?
I don't know for sure. I assume so. It's not.
Okay. Just curious.
Diane's shaking her head. Diane knows more.
Diane frequently washes her car in the middle of the night. Question about that, police activity. Do you see, I mean, it's a different area, clearly, but do you see a lot of police activity to that facility overnight between 12 and 7 a.m.?
I don't know what a lot is, but
Well,
we see a
I
fair
mean, in
amount
your
of
opinion,
we see a
it's-
fair amount of activity at that Shell station. Yes.
Okay. And would you think that the same kind of, because of the different location, that we would see similar on the north side of town?
No, I think it would be different. I think it would be different at this location.
Due to the surrounding neighborhood,
Yes.
primarily? Okay. I think that's it for now. Oh, I did have one more, Stacy. We're not requiring a split rail fence around the sign or anything on the corner of St. Charles and Main, are we?
Around the sign, you mean like a streetscaping enhancement?
If you've seen the Shell on Roosevelt, there's a black wrought iron sign that covers half their sign. It looks ridiculous to me, quite frankly.
That's
Because you
there
can't
in-
read the prices even if they're there.
That's there in accordance with the Roosevelt Road streetscape
No, I want to make sure
plan.
we're not gonna have the same
We
there,
do
and
not
if we
have
do,
those
we're
same
gonna make sure the
requirements.
sign is higher than the fence.
Those requirements don't exist at this intersection.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Phil, I had one question. It was mentioned by a resident that this was the second most dangerous intersection in DuPage County. Do you have any knowledge of that?
I don't know if that's the case or not. I would, just guessing, I would say that's probably not accurate based on the number of accidents there. We respond to the accidents to that intersection. I know I don't think it's the second biggest, most dangerous intersection in our town. So, just based on accident data alone.
All right, that answers my question, thank you. And then one question I overlooked for our village attorney. I think I know the answer to this from some other developments that we've had similar to this, but it's been mentioned that, you know, is there a potential conflict of interest because we own the property and then we would be, you know, changing the zoning and or use for that? Would you just quickly address that?
And Greg, if you could also address the difference between a permitted use and a special use as well.
Well, I think actually Trustee Lattisek's question kind of started off with that discussion. So there seems to be a little bit of confusion about what a special use is as opposed to what a permitted use is. And I can only say simply a use is a use. A permitted use is one that doesn't require anything more than staff review for approval. A special use is one where the petitioner is forced to go through this process that we're going through here in the Plan Commission and so forth. And the idea that the village board is somehow conflicted kind of flies in the face. The village has put this petitioner, it's not the village, it's the petitioner, but it's put this petitioner on property that the village owns through the special use process, so it can be aired out in front of everyone, and everyone has an opportunity to come in and talk to the board about what issues or concerns or whatever it might be that they have. So I think it ties in. So a special use is not like an illegal use. It's actually listed, this particular use of a gas station is listed as a special use. It just has to go through a process, as opposed to perhaps a gas station in
C4? Where's a gas station? Well, where's a gas station permitted use?
Or is it anyone in the house? So any gas station that would come in would have to go through this process. And we're putting it through the process rather than deciding not. I don't know if this plays into, I heard a comment that this plan doesn't fit within our comprehensive plan for this location. And just from a legal standpoint, that's not true. And I would just refer everyone to a couple of sections of the comprehensive plan. And if you're not familiar with the comprehensive plan, 50 or 60 residents, planners, I don't know, Mr. Abel, if you were on this one or a prior one for the village, but at some point in time, I think that was the case. It basically sets out policies for the village to follow for future uses of property within the village. This particular district, the Five Corners District, is dealt with on pages 71 through 80 of the comprehensive plan. And just some specific quotes from here, which tells me and confirms my opinion that what's going on here is legal. There's no conflict of interest. It identifies the existing uses as including a gas station and says zoning generally reflects the existing land use pattern. And of course, it was a gas station at that time. Grant you different hours, different number of pumps, so forth. But that's the case. It's the same thing. On page 82 or 72, the comprehensive plan says commercial uses in this area should be oriented primarily to the needs of surrounding residents and motorists who pass through the area. What we've heard is, that having a gas station here is something that will serve. Thank you. No problem. It's getting late for me. I'm getting old. So again, it fits within the comprehensive plan. The board is tasked with looking at the comprehensive plan, looking at our zoning code, and making the best decision for the 27,000 residents of the village of Glen Ellyn. And they are not, whatever they decide here tonight, I have no idea what it will be, but there's no conflict of interest in reviewing the special use process.
Thank you.
Are there any additional trustee questions or comments at this point? So the public is aware this vote requires 4 trustees, so I don't participate and I will not vote on this. So with no other questions or comments, may I have a motion, please, for consideration?
I'd like to move, if I could, in advance of that. I don't believe that we have sufficient information that has been made available to determine whether a special use permit should be granted, whether the petitioner has sustained its burden of establishing the elements of a special use permit. That's not to say that it couldn't be done. I just don't think there is evidence in the record that from which we can make that decision. And so I'd respectfully request or move that we table this motion until we get additional information, both from the commissions and from the staff.
Is there a second to table the motion? With no second, I will ask again for a motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move passage of ordinance number 6486, an ordinance granting approval of a special use permit for the service station and variations from the Glen Ellyn sign code for the construction of a gas station and convenience store for True North LLC to be located at 825 North Main Street.
I second the motion.
So we have a first and a second. Is there any further deliberations? May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Clark.
Yes.
Trustee Lattisack.
Yes.
Trustee McGinley.
Aye.
Trustee O'Shea.
Yes.
Trustee Senek.
I'd like to make some comments if I could, before I vote. No? Then I abstain.
Abstain. So with 4 votes, the special use is approved, and it'll move back to the Plan Commission for the balance of.
Put any conditions on it?
We have lawyers too. It has to go through the process.
Not on the
It's
special
not
use.
final.
Put conditions on hours of operation. You didn't put any condition like you did on Walgreens.
One elevation. You have a reasonable motion here to table this. So you couldn't even get a second.
And there-
Shame back to the people who live here. Four people be gone in 3 weeks.
No conditions. Would be negligent. No conditions. Unbelievable.
Wipe that smile off your face, sir.
I'm saying, I grew up on Elm Street right near there, so I thought it kind of funny when that was mentioned, and I apologize.
This is disgusting. Thank you, Mr. Senate. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Senate, for everything. I appreciate it.
Just a little bit more time, huh? You can't get a little more time.
The next item is item I, reminders.
Just for reminders.
We'll move on to reminders.
The next special village board workshop is scheduled for Monday, March 20th, 2017 at 5:30 in room 301 of the Glen Civic Center. And a special village board meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 20th, 2017 at 7 p.m. in the Galligan boardroom. And then a note, the village board meeting scheduled for Monday, March 27th at 7 p.m. has been canceled.
Is there any other business?
Have received Patrick statement.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee O'Shea?
Yes.
Trustee Lattiser?
Yes.
Trustee McGinley?
Aye.
Trustee Senate?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.